everybody? Welcome to another episode of Purple Insider presented by FanDuel. Matthew Coller here, and day 2 of Minnesota Vikings training camp, and we already have a development at the quarterback position. And the question is going to be what this development means exactly. So Kevin O'Connell has mentioned from time to time at the podium that us in the media, we count all the reps. And you know what? Guilty as charged, my friend. So I have the breakdown and the grid of where all the passes went for each of the quarterbacks today. But the notable rep count was how often Kyler Murray was with the first team today. So by my count, and it's always unofficial because sometimes there are imperfections on what is a first team rep and so forth. Maybe you see certain receivers out there think it's the second team, but normally it's pretty clear who the first teamers are. It's Christian Darrisaw, it's Brian O'Neill, it's Blake Brandel snapping the ball, it's the wide receivers that are the starters, right? And by my count, Kyler Murray had 12 reps with the first team today, and JJ McCarthy only 6. And in fact, McCarthy started the practice as the starter with the ones and then took 4 reps. And then we didn't see him again with those first teamers until the very end of practice, which he took 2 from my count. Now, if there was another one in there, I apologize, but it was a very clear, and this is also, cross-checked with everybody else that was watching as well in the media, but there was a clear and decided Kyler Murray advantage to the first team reps. So this brings us to the questions about this. The first question would be, is this how it's going to be going forward? Is Kyler Murray going to get the vast majority of the first team reps and JJ McCarthy will go with the second team and then McCarthy will work in, which is what happened today, for a handful of reps? Or is this going to be that Kyler Murray took the majority today, but JJ McCarthy will take the majority tomorrow? So tomorrow's practice is going to tell us quite a bit about where this thing is headed. And then the pads come on and so forth, because if Kyler Murray is going to start taking the majority of the reps with the first team going forward, practice after practice after practice, then even if it has not been announced, which Kevin O'Connell said he would do, and I'm guessing that that's going to be within the first couple of weeks of training camp, that it's not going to go all the way deep into the offseason here, all the way to the joint practices and so forth. I would guess that it's going to be quite a bit before that. But if it starts being day after day after day of Kyler Murray taking twice as many first team reps as JJ McCarthy, then we could pretty clearly say that this thing is going the direction that we thought it would go on the day that Kyler Murray signed with the Minnesota Vikings, which is not that JJ McCarthy was given no opportunity whatsoever to compete, but that it was not going to necessarily be a 50-50 competition. I mean, O'Connell said at the beginning, the first day or two, it'll be kind of like that, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So he never committed to exact rep counts, exact first team rep counts, and so forth. And they both threw a lot of passes today, so we'll go through what happened. But maybe if you're referring to 50-50, it could have just been the number of passes that each quarterback is going to get. But there was, if you had no knowledge of the Minnesota Vikings and you showed up today and only watched this practice, you would think, okay, Kyler Murray is their starting quarterback and JJ McCarthy is their backup and Carson Wentz is QB3. And that's how you would have viewed it on this day. So if Murray just continues to take all of the first team reps, then we know that they didn't feel like JJ McCarthy, I don't want to say had a legitimate chance to win the competition, but maybe they needed to see more from him in order for him to earn those reps. I guess you could put it that way. And if they go back to McCarthy tomorrow and he gets the majority of the first team reps and Kyler is mostly with the second team, then it's kind of like, all right, still on, right? Still ongoing. But in the first direction, in the direction that Murray starts taking twice as many first team reps, then it just becomes sort of a foregone conclusion, and we will all be sitting around and waiting for the announcement that will eventually come that Kyler Murray is the starting quarterback. I will say from myself personally, I thought it would have taken a little longer than this to have it slanted, which means that it is absolutely possible that JJ McCarthy could tomorrow get the majority of the reps, and then they even it out with no pads on. And then when they get to the pads, then it starts to go back and forth too. Nothing we've seen in the first 2 days would say, oh my gosh, they have Joe freaking Montana out there. This is the next great quarterback in the National Football League. Kyler Murray's going to win the Super Bowl. No, and I'll go through the practice today, which had big ups and big downs for Kyler Murray and not a lot from JJ McCarthy. But it's not like there was something that happened on day one where you just went, all right, it's over. There's no reason to do this. But I think from Kevin O'Connell's perspective, maybe the onus is just on JJ McCarthy to do everything he can with those reps and to show when he gets the second team snaps that, hey, you still deserve to be in this conversation. If you are way outperforming Kyler when you get a chance with the twos, then by the way, sometimes the twos go against the first team defense. And I don't have that level of detail. I tried to get into detail, but I don't know twos versus ones every single time who got what. But sometimes the twos do go up against the ones. And those are harder caliber reps that maybe you would weigh a little bit more. But if Murray if we're going to do it this way and Murray struggles, then that rep count could change and we could see McCarthy at some point extend this thing and get more first team reps. But the way that it looked today was, okay, this is Kyler Murray is the starting quarterback, presumably, and JJ McCarthy is going to have to do a lot to make this interesting, at least by the count today. And that could very much change tomorrow. If McCarthy then takes twice as many as Kyler Murray, then we're going to say, all right, wow, this was as split down the middle as you ever could have dreamed of. And I did find it fascinating because, look, everybody loves a quarterback competition, right? And I'm enjoying it. I'm interested. I'm fascinated. I've never written down every detail of every play and put it on a grid before. So I'm having fun and I'm watching really intently with every single throw and every single rep where, when Kirk Cousins is the quarterback, you're kind of looking over and seeing what the punters are doing sometimes, but you're more watching defensive linemen, offensive linemen, safeties, like trying to focus on certain players that are in other battles, but I've never done it with this level of intensity before. And you make different observations when doing it. So it's fascinating to watch, but it's also fascinating to watch people's reactions to a quarterback competition. O'Connell was on, I think it was NFL Network, Good Morning Football today, and got a question that essentially accused him of not giving JJ McCarthy a fair chance. And I just thought, this is odd. Like sometimes some people treat this like it's high school or something. I mean, this is the National Football League. It's going to be, and this is what I wanted to say about the reps. If this just goes completely Kyler Murray's way, well, okay. This, again, it's not a high school competition. This is not junior high. This is not, hey, you didn't give my kid a fair chance. This is, you have to win football games as a fifth-year head coach in the NFL without a playoff win, and you are always going to be more likely to go with the guy that you brought in as the veteran quarterback who has been in the NFL for a long time and can run an NFL offense. And even if he's not perfect, when somebody consistently ranks in the top 15 in the NFL, that's not by my opinion, that's by NFL executives, telling The Athletic that every year, then yeah, like that person is going to get more benefit of the doubt. More of the reps are going to lean his way. That's generally how it's going to go. And it's not shocking to see it leaned a little bit. I just thought that it might go a little bit longer before we started to go, wait, JJ didn't take a first team rep since the first segment of practice. Oh, okay. Interesting. But that's how it went today, and we'll see if that changes tomorrow. But I don't think that it's anything either quarterback has done so far, so I want to get into their performance today. So we've got to start out with the quarterback grids. I'll pop them up for where they threw the ball, but here was the math on today's performances by Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy. Murray, to my eye, completed 9 passes and incompleted 6 passes, so 9 of 15, 60% of the throws. 5 of them were out of the 9 completions, were positive. And I don't just include routine throws as completions. Like there are routine throws that if it was dropped, or today, TJ Hawkinson caught a ball. It was unclear whether it was in or out of bounds. It was a pretty routine pass. He kind of floated up to Hawkinson. He went and got it. I couldn't really tell. We would have needed instant replay. So I count it down as, yes, that's maybe an incompletion is kind of what I thought, but it was a routine throw as in you expect him to make the catch. It's right there. The ball was where it was supposed to be. It wasn't anything particularly special. So when I get to the routine throws, sometimes they're more than the completions when it's the positives and the routines, because there are drops or even sometimes like a really nice play by the defense. And this is for both quarterbacks, by the way. Like there was a great play by a corner against the throw with Ty Felton, where I thought that Felton probably could have undercut the ball a little bit more, gone up and made a contested catch. And so the throw was in the area it was supposed to be, but the corner made a really nice play. I'm sorry, which corner it was that knocked it away. I probably have that in my notes. So anyway, Murray ends up with 60% completion, but had 5 positive throws. Now, something I've added from yesterday is a couple of highlights of throws I want to talk you through to kind of paint the picture of how it looked. 7 routine throws and then 3 negatives. And the 3 negatives were all pretty rough. There was, I'll take you through that in a minute when I've got the highlights and the lowlights, but there were 3 negatives and they were pretty on the negative side. For JJ McCarthy, I had 12 passes with 9 completions, 75% completion percentage, but only 1 positive throw, 2 negative throws, and 9 routine. The real thing that has stood out to me, and maybe this is a matter of JJ McCarthy being told a lot that, hey, you got to complete passes, like get rid of the football, be on time a little bit more, is that he has not pushed it downfield in the first 2 days almost at all. There was one today that was good that I'll go over in his highlights and lowlights. But really over the first 2 days, it's been a lot of stuff underneath, a lot of checking down, a lot of, you're getting completions, but you're not making too many positive throws. Yesterday, he had a couple. I think I had him at 3 yesterday, but only 1. And I'll talk you through that today. So not only were the rep counts a little different, but in terms of the highs of each quarterback was quite a bit different. And, I don't have a grid for Carson Wentz, but I'll get to this later in the notes. Carson Wentz completed a couple bombs today. Got to respect that he got some reps and just went out there and said, you know what? I'm slinging it to some of these young kids. And there might be an exciting name on that list for you guys of somebody who made a big catch today. So we'll get to that in a minute. Here is Kyler Murray's grid for today. And for the audio listener, the grid is just 0 to 9 yards, 10 to 19, and then 20 plus yard throws. And then in all the zones from left, center to right. And again, inexact science, but I have created my own little system to try to keep track of these the absolute best I can. So Murray had, in terms of deep throws today, he had 3 of them, and all 3 were, in my mind, positive throws. Although there was one that maybe I didn't write down here that was, I wrote it down. It wasn't, okay, I wrote it down not under 20 plus, because there's one I want to talk about that maybe didn't travel 20 yards, but had a positive throw that wasn't brought in, but had 2 other ones that were really excellent passes deep and to the sidelines. And then in terms of intermediate, he went 2 for 6. And there were 2 really good throws that he made intermediate. And then there were 3 negative throws in the intermediate area. And throwing over the middle today was a little bit problematic for Kyler Murray in the intermediate area. Now, keep in mind, we're talking 2 passes, but neither one of them went well. And then a couple of throws to his right also didn't turn out. So the intermediate struggled a bit today for Kyler Murray. And then the short stuff was absolutely fine. There was an incompletion there was a pass breakup, a really nice play on a short throw over the middle, but he went 5 for 6 on the short stuff. So let me talk more in detail about Kyler Murray's day. So let me go through the best 2 throws that he made. In the last segment of practice, we got a really good look at this because they went the other direction. They were coming toward us for most of the practice, but then it flipped around and they were going away from where I was standing. So I could see really well Kyler drop back, hit his back foot, and deliver an out corner route to Justin Jefferson that was probably I'm taking my best guess, maybe 15 to 20 yards downfield, but you could see the route by Jefferson where he kind of faked inside, snapped hard outside. The ball was already in the air, drifted right to him. It was a classic, kind of a Kirk Cousins throw, to be honest. It was kind of one of those ones that they've done a million times with Justin Jefferson, right on the money to end the practice. So that was very, very nice from Kyler Murray. And then he also had a bomb to Dante Fleming that was terrific as well, where he just led the wide receiver. It was kind of a pop fly up over his shoulder. And Fleming has been good at going up and getting the ball when it comes to these deep passes. I mean, he's got some long speed and he's a little Jalen Naylor-like to me. I think that I think what I said going into training camp was don't doubt Dante, because Dante Fleming may have a long shot to make the roster if they like enough, and he's got to participate in special teams, so that might be tough for him, but he catches these deep balls, and he made a nice play on it, but the throw was there. It was just perfectly dropped up over and right on for what would have been, I don't know, a 50-yard touchdown or something like that. In terms of the lowlights, so there are two throws that are the classic Kyler Murray touch, Kyler Murray anticipation, the beautiful ball up over the top. The lowlights, though, there was a couple of throws over the middle. One of them was Addison was really open, and he just kind of spiked it a little bit. And then there was another one where he's just a little late to Addison over the middle, and it was just not on time, and it turned into a pass breakup where Addison was standing there wide open, and he just didn't get there in time, let it go, and then it might have been Blake Cashman who broke up the pass. And those are the things that have happened a little bit in the first 2 days to Kyler Murray, where it's like, the throw to Justin Jefferson that I mentioned yesterday on the show that, maybe Jefferson lays out and grabs it in the regular season, but it was just ever so slightly slow to get over to that point. So these are things that Murray is going to be working through as he learns the details in the offense. And then there was a miscommunication ball. I think it was toward Jefferson, but he dropped back, might have been Addison, dropped back and looped the ball up in the air, and it just went to nobody. And there was another one too that he threw to Jefferson that also flew over his head toward the sideline. It was another corner route that flew up over his head and out of bounds. There was a negative throw as well. So, Murray I think I had him at 3 negative throws, and there were a couple other ones that were borderline today. And it was not a super high completion percentage day for Kyler Murray, and there wasn't drops today or anything. So there were misses for sure. But at the same time, there were really some wow throws and wow plays from Murray. So I guess you would call it maybe boom or bust, possibly. I guess I would go with that. It's a little bit like boom or bust for Kyler Murray on this day. Now for JJ McCarthy, his grid is a lot less eventful. There were no passes over 20 yards. The intermediate, he did complete 3 out of 4. And the really nice one, the positive throw that I had for him today, was over the middle to Bryson Nesbitt, who in both of the last training camps has just found a way to catch some footballs on those seam routes. And McCarthy just put it right on him. It was a nice catch, kind of caught it and rolled down to the ground with the velocity of the football. Like he had really put something behind it. And we've seen McCarthy make this throw before, but it's a good looking throw. When he drops back, really lets it loose, and the tight end is able to make that grab. So that was his best throw of the day. But then, as you can see on the grid, a lot of less than 10 yards. 5, 6, 6, 4, 8 on underneath stuff. And all of them I marked down as routine. There's not too many great throws that happen under 10 yards. Occasionally, I guess, but normally the positive throws are in the middle of the field. So there weren't any deep shots from him, wasn't taking any risks, did complete a couple of nice passes in the intermediate area, but overall a pretty uneventful day for JJ McCarthy. And in terms of his highlights and lowlights, I mentioned the pass to Nesbitt. Also just an on-time throw to Jashawn Jones, who's always good in training camp. Intermediate area, drop back, step, throw. It's routine, but it was also like, yeah, that's what you want to see there from JJ McCarthy. Right on time, right to his wide receiver, bang, positive play, go forward. The lowlights, he had a sack, or it would have been a sack, where not only was it a sack, but then when he rolled out and he did throw the ball, or it would have been, there was a lot of pressure, but then just getting rid of the ball was not very accurate in doing so. And then had another one where he was slow, where he threw it into tight coverage and just couldn't find a target. And it looked like sitting, standing, waiting, come on, throw the ball, and then just throws it into an area where it was covered. But again, I mean, not a lot of it was going down the field very often. So there were 2 negative plays that I had for him, but those were the only two for JJ McCarthy in practice. And I've just wondered a little bit in these first 2 days, are you going to let it rip at some point? I mean, once the reps start to go toward Kyler Murray, if that really is the case, and again, we're going to have a better picture of this tomorrow, whether it's just to even them out for the unpadded practices or if it's really going to start leaning in Kyler Murray's direction. But he's not letting it loose so far very much. And if he's working largely with the second team throughout the start of the practices here as we get into pads, then he might want to do that. Like, you might want to start saying, hey, you only live once. Like, let's start to go down the field a little bit more, because 2 days of kind of just checking down, throwing underneath, like not really the best utilization of the skill set of JJ McCarthy, who has a really strong arm and also needs to be able to show that he can throw some of these layered passes that we've seen very good from Kyler Murray. So final conclusion on the quarterbacks is way up and down day for Kyler Murray. You could see where some of the stuff he's still working through it, thinking through it, not unlike what we saw from Sam Darnold a couple of years ago, where it was a lot of up and down practices. Darnold had some great throws. What are you doing, Darnold? And little concerned on the Kyler Murray point that the snaps have been a little problematic from Blake Brandel. He's got all summer to work through this, but there were some that were kind of off to his right or off to his left, or there was a couple that hit the ground, and not what you want to see from the center exchange. So that needs to be worked on as well by Kyler Murray and Blake Brandel. But at the end of the day, it was, Murray made 5 out of the 7 best throws of the day and did a lot more work with the guys who are going to catch those throws in the season. So the arrow direction now continuing to point toward Kyler Murray, but much more today than it did yesterday. And we'll keep track of whether that changes going forward. So got other stuff. I want to get your guys, takes and takeaways on this, and we'll get to the comments very soon. I do want to give you a FanDuel question of the day, which is Kyler Murray is plus 600 to win Comeback Player of the Year. If he's named the starting quarterback within the first week of padded practices, would it make you feel more confident? Like, wow, he won the job really quickly. Or would you feel kind of like it was never a competition and why did you do that? That's the question of the day. FanDuel question of the day. Okay, let's get to some of the things that were said today out there at TCO Performance Center. Wes Phillips talked about Demond Claiborne. I know there's a lot of interest in Demond Claiborne, and I also have other notes as well to get to from practice, but I want to get you 2 quotes about Demond Claiborne and then something I asked Matt Daniels about Miles Price. So here's Wes Phillips on Demond Claiborne and his adjustment into the NFL.
Wes, what's been your initial impression of Demond Claiborne?
Explosive, great feet, great kid. I mean, he's some of these college systems are very different from the pros, and Wake's was no different. That's each system has their own great things that they do, and it obviously allowed him to succeed, but it was very different from terminology and things that he had to learn here. So there were a lot of growing pains in the spring as far as being disciplined with his footwork, his tracks, and then learning the protection scheme and all the calls and the things that go into it. But you just see a much more comfortable player even in the first few days here coming into camp.
So that's a point that we've made about Claiborne kind of repeatedly, is it seems to be a difficult offense for college running backs, inexperienced running backs to jump into. And Demond Claiborne kind of has his work cut out there. So I know people want to see him, and he was, again, out there today, looked pretty good running the football. But that it also might take some time as he's had to really get deep into the playbook. And here's Matt Daniels also talking about the possibility of Claiborne returning kicks.
I asked you about Demond Claiborne. What do you see from him just in terms of potential kick returner spots, or do you see him as a candidate for that role?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Demond. I think he's done an excellent job. You talk about movement skills, explosiveness. I don't think we've had a guy like this since Kane, honestly. I don't want to put him in that category just yet, but the way that he moves, the first step burst that he has, the explosion that he plays with, the lateral quicks and short area quickness and lateral agility that he does have, gets you really, really excited. I mean, you talk about this is a guy that took, one or two to the house in college, and so he's going to be a guy that we're going to look to see, is he a possible candidate to be back there? Again, ball security is always going to be at a premium, so that's going to be a big thing that we're going to harp on back there. But if you're able to have a guy like him and Miles Price back there, then you mix in a guy of Ty Felton, who has the capability of doing some great things with the football in his hands, it gets you really, really, really excited. Again, like I said, you look at the depth of the roster, it gets you really excited about this group.
So there you go with Demond Claiborne. Good chance that he will have to potentially win that kick returner 2 job next to Miles Price, who I asked Matt Daniels about.
Where is the next step for Miles Price? What's your emphasis for him after he clearly showed you guys that he can be a top returner?
Yeah, I think for Miles, the next thing for him is going to be how good can we be at playing with quiet feet when we do catch it, especially on punts, catching it with good, clean, square feet. A lot of the times last year, he was a little off balance, maybe stagger feet, not catching it square to the chest. And I think, the number one thing is going to be, as it always is, all about the ball. Ball security is always it's got to be at the top of the mind for him. And that starts with good technique, good fundamentals, playing with good balanced feet. And so, ball security is going to be a big thing. But not only that, but just being able to read the ball and square it up and play with big-time urgency.
Yeah, Miles Price showed his ability to break tackles, his ability to potentially be a great returner, but also did have some ball security issues last year. The fumble against the Ravens, the fumble, the punt against, well, it wasn't really a fumble, the punt. He just didn't get away from it against the Green Bay Packers. So can't have those mistakes again from Miles Price. Other notes from day 2, I did include that Demond Claiborne did take some kick return reps that I saw. Isaiah Rodgers did not practice, but did take warm-ups, which is quite interesting. Is he looking for a new contract? Nobody has said that and have not talked to Isaiah yet so far this offseason. So we'll see if he stops and talks to us at some point. But his contract is up, and you could see him wanting a contract extension. You could also see him being in the process of working on a contract extension with the Vikings and doesn't want to take part in the entire practice, which happened with TJ Hawkinson. The next time we get a chance to talk to Kevin O'Connell, I'm sure that will come up if we don't catch up with Isaiah Rodgers before then. But just something to keep an eye on, that he went through warmups but did no practice, and we saw a lot of course, James Pierre took a ton of reps with the first team. Zamiah Vaughn continued to mix in. Seems like a guy that they like because he just continues to get a few reps here or there. But the majority was Jay Ward today playing at the kind of big nickel position. And it just looks like the way that they want it to be structured is Metellus at the strong safety, Theo Jackson at the free safety, and Jay Ward playing the previously Metellus type of role. And then Metellus coming up to the line of scrimmage, really just being Harrison Smith, communicating, changing coverages, stuff like that. But suddenly Jay Ward is a fascinating player here because he was very versatile in college, and then we didn't see him really in the NFL, but this is another safety development project where they kind of continue to have this churn of safeties that are always coming, and now it looks like he's going to get an opportunity. Jacoby Thomas was mostly with the second team today, if not exclusively with the second team, so we'll see if the reps start to shift it all there, depending on what they think of Jackson and Ward. But with Brian Flores, he has been more apt to slowly develop some of these players, and it might be that way with Jay Ward taking a couple years, or even Jacoby Thomas not getting on the field right away and instead being depth. Jamal Adams is somebody that I'm just going to be watching his reps all year long, and everyone was healthy in the linebacker room today. And there could be some mixing and matching because maybe you don't want Blake Cashman taking all the reps. Maybe you don't want Eric Wilson taking all the reps, but Jamal Adams was getting a lot of them with the first team. And they may view this as a legitimate player who can make a difference for them. I don't want to declare that yet. It's just the first couple days of practice, and it's something we need to see as pads come on, and we need to see him kind of treated like a part of the roster. Like not playing in preseason would be one of those. With O'Connell, you do not want to be playing in the preseason. If you are, then it usually says something about where the team thinks you're at. But the fact that he was getting out there right away makes you think, like, I don't know, do they really see a role for him? Do they really see him as someone who can be not a starting linebacker necessarily, but rotational player for them? When they signed him, it was like, maybe he was last year for Las Vegas, but there's also a skepticism too of, we have seen a good number of players like this before who were previously stars. They get brought into camps, doesn't work out, or the guy ends up just being depth the entire season. But the way it's been treated, at least for the start, looks like Jamal Adams is part of this linebacker room. Jordan Mason, Wes Phillips today said that Jordan Mason spent the offseason getting in a little bit better of shape. And shout out to Emily Liker of the Star Tribune, who said to us on day one, does Jordan Mason look more slender? And I said, how the heck can you tell from all the way over here? Right? So apparently she has better eyes than any of us do. And Jordan Mason, got in a little better shape. And I just wonder about maybe their conversations with Jordan Mason, if they were emphasizing, like, we need you in shape to be closer to RB1. That doesn't mean he's going to be only RB1, but if you want to keep Aaron Jones healthy for the entire season, running him 20 times a game is not the way to do it, right? Like, Jordan Mason is the guy who physically can handle the punishment, but being in a little better shape to do it coming into this season could be a plus for him. And we're always looking for guys who are in the best shape of their life. The funny thing about that is I don't know that I've ever heard a player say that. Like, it's the classic camp cliche, but I just haven't heard this from Vikings players very often through the years. So I was like, oh, do I get the best shape of my life guy with Jordan Mason? And also Carson Wentz today. This was a really good day for the depth wide receivers to make plays downfield. So Carson Wentz came in, he threw one to Dylan Bell, and it was downfield 20, 25 yards. And Bell kind of made this turnaround back shoulder type of catch because the ball was a little bit behind him, flung around and made the grab and was able to bring it in, a very high difficulty catch. So we have officially our first Dylan Bell play of camp. This was his first target, I believe, and he ends up making an awesome catch on it. And I'm just interested to see this battle at the back end, because then Carson Wentz comes out and throws a bomb to Miles Price, who caught it. And Price has been very involved in the first couple days at wide receiver. So we were talking today, like, hey, over under 10 catches or something for Miles Price this year. But, if he ends up making it and getting some opportunities as a receiver and proving himself, as he has the first couple days been involved, he's been like in that first and second unit. And then everybody else, Dante Fleming has been mixing in, but we haven't seen a lot of Dylan Bell. And then he goes out and makes a play. So Bell, Fleming, Price, and even Ty Felton had one of the better catches too of the day from Kyler Murray. So I think there's a real 4-man battle there, and two of the guys play special teams, which gives them an edge. But if Bell and Fleming can prove that they could provide something on that side, then they could be involved as well. So here's what I also brought your way for today, which is B-roll. So some video from camp. And is it exciting video? Not really. But you know what? It feels good to watch it. So I'm going to start answering questions with a little bit of B-roll here. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get to one of the most important things. So I'll bring this up. Well, I talk over the B-roll of not a whole lot happening on the practice field with, cornerbacks or safeties or something catching the ball. Christian Darrisaw spoke with us today, and what he said was not as important as how he said it. So Christian Darrisaw, as you know, struggled with his health last year. And as he was coming off the field today, we talked to him. And I think the biggest thing that I noticed from Darrisaw was a big smile. There was a big smile on Christian Darrisaw's face. He seemed legitimately happy to be feeling good playing football again. And he told us that, yeah, the goal is 100% play every single snap, 17 games. He said that at some point during the offseason, the rest just did its work. And he felt like he was back to himself again, back to the best health that he's been in since 2024. And it was really just the rest was the thing. And he did say that last year was very mentally taxing as well, and that it was really challenging to not be out there at times, because this is a guy who's played his entire career, is always going to be a starter and everything else. So Darrisaw really seemed in great spirits about where he is at health-wise, and that you just can't say enough about how freaking huge that was. Also, I had a good chat with Will Fries, but you're going to have to maybe read the newsletter for that. We'll see when I put that out there. But good conversation with Will Fries. PurpleInsider.football is the newsletter. You should sign up there. But, I mean, think about Darrisaw's impact on this Minnesota Vikings offense. When you run to the left side and have 2 first-round draft picks and body movers, and you can put Josh Oliver over there, and you're going to run outside zone with these great athletes, like that is a big advantage for the Vikings. Jordan Mason running behind those guys is not something that opponents want to see. And from a pass protection standpoint, Kyler Murray in 2024 was a top 10 quarterback with a clean pocket. If he's got time to throw, he's got space to see the field, he's going to be pretty accurate and pretty good. And if, assuming he is the quarterback, I mean, Darrisaw's impact on clean pockets, as we saw last year, is huge. And if it's JJ McCarthy, then of course that would be the case for him as well. I don't have the on-off the field numbers for Christian Darrisaw because that's so hard to pin down. But I could tell you from eye test perspective, it is a different offense. It's a different team when Darrisaw is in there. So no doubt that hearing him, not just hearing him say he's feeling better, but also seeing him more upbeat, acting like he's feeling better, made a big difference today as well. Okay. So let me get you actually some of our sponsors real quick, and then we will get to more beautiful B-roll and more questions from you guys, or start to answer questions from you guys. But let me tell you about my friends at Brooklyn Bedding. One of the things I should mention that is bedding with D's, not with T's, is it's really fun to get the bed, and then it comes in a box, and then you roll it out, and then it expands. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that it's been life-changing for me to have this Brooklyn Bedding bed. And what I'm excited about, too, is that this thing, I know it's built really, really well. So it's been awesome to have right now. But as we go along with this thing, it's going to have a really sound structure, and it's not going to turn into a hammock and have a look like a C at some point. Because I know it's really well made. But the good part was that it was affordable. This is the Aurora Luxe mattress from Brooklyn Bedding. And, it's just been a game changer for my spine. Feels better. I had lower back problems at times, and they have just disappeared since we have been sleeping on this bed. It's been great. And I got more energy now to do longer and more robust podcasts. But what I like is that it wasn't one size fits all. We got exactly what we were looking for. They can even get you hard to find size mattresses, and you have a 120-night comfort trial. So I'm still in the comfort trial, but if at some point we decide, you know what, we needed something a little different, then we could swap it or return the mattress hassle-free. So go to brooklynbedding.com and use the promo code PURPLE to check out 30% off site-wide during their back-to-school sale. That is brooklynbedding.com and promo code PURPLE for 30% off site-wide. Also want to tell you about ZipRecruiter. If you're in a position where somebody helps you out, somebody goes the extra mile, you remember that. It's like their job meant something to them to help you out, and that shows you how much they care. Well, ZipRecruiter has kind of taken this to heart. Because if you're hiring, then great candidates can also show you that they want to take the extra step. that they're truly interested in your job. So ZipRecruiter is a way to stand out from the others, and you can try it right now at ziprecruiter.com/audio. And with this, you can use this powerful matching technology to find quality candidates quickly, and they can tell you in their own words why they're interested in the job. So you can really find out who is willing to go that extra mile, and it's no wonder that they are the #1 rated hiring site. So try ZipRecruiter now at ziprecruiter.com/audio. 4 out of every 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate right away in the first day. Again, try it for free, ziprecruiter.com/audio. There you go. Okay. And at some point, Isaiah Rodgers waves at me. Well, there he is. There's Isaiah Rodgers. Let's get into your comments and questions. So we'll start rolling through them, but I'm hoping you're enjoying a little bit of video here from Vikings training camp. Joker says roses are red, violets are blue, Kyler Murray's QB1 and JJ is QB2. That is very clever from you, Joker. There's a reason you have that name. But as it looks today, just as of today, I would say that's probably the case. And I've never thought that it wasn't going to be the case. And if you're Kevin O'Connell, you want to start getting your #1 quarterback the most reps that you possibly can with your first team. That doesn't mean that JJ McCarthy gets no opportunity. He got a handful today with the first team, but it was much more with the second team. And it really doesn't come as a shock that it would start to lean this way a little bit when we talked about all offseason that you just don't go out and get a quarterback of this caliber if you're not planning to have them be your starting quarterback. So could this change? Could it shift? Absolutely, it could. Yeah, I mean, there is a chance for sure that it could shift and it could change, and we could see suddenly JJ McCarthy get more reps than Kyler Murray. Yeah, I mean, things could go that way, but this more matches the smell test of what we thought when Kyler Murray was signed, which was, yeah, that doesn't mean they're done with JJ McCarthy, but it looks like they want Kyler Murray to be the starter. And where JJ McCarthy's career goes from here is really up to him. I mean, if he takes advantage of every one of these reps and continues to improve, I don't think he's gotten off to a bad start at all. It's just been kind of a safe start, I think, for McCarthy. But if he continues to improve, if he continues to see the field well with the offense, operate it the right way, I haven't seen too many of McCarthy like looking around, looking like a deer in the headlights. It's just been a lot of safe throws. But you know, when it comes to McCarthy's reps, you have to do the most that you can with what you got. So learning from everyone, developing with every single one of them, because he's still getting a lot of throws. It's just that it's leaning toward Murray as of the first 2 days of practice here. And it was a little bit more the first day, but I couldn't really discern too much. Like, okay, was it a lot more? I didn't think so, but today was very obvious that it was a lot more. So is it going to be JJ McCarthy getting a lot tomorrow and then them evening it out? If that happens, then I will tomorrow night when we do the live show be like, oh, okay, all right, now it's here we go. But there was a little maybe wind out of the sails of, oh, okay, all right, Kyler's getting a lot more of these with the first team reps. So we might not really have the most intense quarterback competition that's ever happened, even if it is indeed still a quarterback competition. Let me get so there, I hope you enjoyed the sights a little bit of practice there. And I also hope I muted the audio because otherwise it would just be a lot of rap music. All right, so let's go over to your comments now and we'll carry on for, well, I don't know, as long as you guys want to talk. Ty says, feels like Jordan Mason is going a little underrated as far as his importance to the team. He needs to have a good year. I totally agree. And I have said this before, but I think that Jordan Mason should be the guy that they really lean into. That he's averaged almost 5 yards a carry over these last 2 years. His yards after contact is great. He's got good acceleration and quickness. He's very good in this running system. And Darrisaw was also, because I asked him about the new run scheme, and he kind of laughed and he said, you know, I can't really tell you guys about the scheme, but we got something cooking, I think he said. So it seems like the offensive line is excited about what they're going to do from a run game perspective as well. And they did invest a lot in order to do that. So if you're going to do it, then lean into Jordan Mason. And look, regardless of how good you think Kyler Murray is, there are people there's a spectrum of Kyler Murray that is probably as wide as any quarterback in the NFL. There are people who think that he's great and that he got completely screwed by Arizona. And there are people who think he's terrible and that it's all his fault that Arizona wasn't that good. And some people think he could be a top 10 and some people think he's a bottom 5 and right. But I think we would all agree that you're going to get a better version of Kyler Murray if you can run the football. And then you can have him do some under center play actions, which he's been doing just fine in this practice. And I expect him to do in the season, be under center at times. But you gotta build off that run game in order for that to completely tie together. And something I really noticed about Kyler Murray, and this is true of Sam Darnold as well, but really of Kyler Murray in his career, is if you set up Kyler Murray with third down and short, he's very good at it. And he's good at fourth down. And you think about the scrambles and the quick area passes and stuff. Like, he's good at moving the chains if you have 3rd and 4. You know where he's not very good career-wise is 3rd and 10. And this goes for Darnold a lot as well. And one of the reasons that the Seattle Seahawks ran on 2nd down so much, which of course the analytics people can't stand, and I understand why, because the data says you shouldn't, but Sam Darnold was very rarely last year in 3rd and long and converted 67% of his 3rd and shorts, and then they went for it on 4th down, and you're like, okay, well, that's a way to get to the same place. And with Kyler, if you're asking him to throw 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd down, time and time again, it's probably going to look like it did today, which is some really good stuff and some kind of perplexing stuff. And that's not what you want for him. You want him to be playing from comfortable positions a lot and not feeling like he's got to be the hero. So to your point, it is really important that Jordan Mason is good. Scolders rise, the stumbles, bumbles, and fumbles and interceptions say otherwise. Oh, I'm sorry. You must have been responding to someone. Scolders rise says, when Murray is given QB1, let's say he has an okay year and the Vikes don't re-sign him, what's the pie chart of another retread quarterback, giving McCarthy another shot, or drafting a quarterback? Well, one thing is, like, it's hard to get all the way down this road when, like, this is the second practice that we've seen of Kyler Murray. But if what plays out for your scenario, I think that you'd probably be looking at number 1 and 3 being the vast majority of the pie chart. I mean, if McCarthy is not getting even 50-50 reps with the first team in the second day of training camp, the chances that he gets another shot are just pretty low inherently. Like, the first 10 games turning out like that, usually quarterbacks don't get too many other shots. And especially if they bring in somebody else to replace you essentially or compete with you, but has a better resume. So it really would be like a 50-50 retread versus drafting a quarterback. I would lean toward they probably end up looking for maybe both, where you'd be, if you're not sold on Murray for even the short term, even like a 2-year contract, if you're not sold on Murray, you're probably looking to draft someone and bring in a veteran, because we know this team wants to continue to be competitive. And we also know that they want to develop a quarterback the right way. Did it happen with McCarthy? Unfortunately, it didn't because of a lot of circumstances, but that's what they want to do. Purple Kool-Aid, was Brandel snapping better today? No, it was actually an issue. It actually was a serious issue today with some of the snaps. And that's something that Brandel's got to get used to as the starting center. And, he was okay with it last year, had a couple of pretty rough ones, but there was one bad one that hit the ground out of shotgun. There was another one where Murray had to reach out for it. So it's something that we are going to keep an eye on through training camp. Can they get on the same page with the snaps? I'm sorry. Now the thing's moving quickly on me here. Cause you guys had a lot of comments. Let's see. Son of Beavers, how did the tight end 3 go, and how is DT3 looking today? I'm not going to really say anything about the defensive line and offensive line and how they're actually performing until they get pads on, because they can't do anything. But Gavin Bartholomew was involved today. Bryson Nesbitt made that great catch I mentioned. And I did ask Wes Phillips about Gavin Bartholomew as well. And he talked about, like, even when they first got him last year, that a lot of things stood out about Gavin Bartholomew and his ability to catch the ball, and they feel like he's also big and strong enough to block as well. So I get the sense that Bartholomew would be the favorite for tight end 3 right now if the season started today. Carrot, do you think that the farce of a competition has hurt Kyler get practice reps to learn the system? No, I don't. I don't, because he's still done stuff with the second team. So he's still taken a lot of reps in these first couple of days, and he still did a lot with mini camp as well and OTAs. And he said that, once he got the OTAs down, then he felt like he was fairly confident coming into the regular season. And he just didn't seem like, I know that he was frustrated, it sounded like, or at least what he said, the toughest part, missing some of the reps. But I think that he's gotten a lot of reps through these first 2 days. And if it continues to go this way, it'll be pretty similar to how it went with Sam Darnold in 2024, which I know McCarthy was getting less with the first team, but they were bouncing back and forth, taking a lot of throws in 2024. Whereas when, when Kirk Cousins was the quarterback, he was taking almost every throw. It was like 90%. And every once in a while, Nick Mullins, oh, hey, Nick, go in there and take a rep or two and then get right back out of there. So this is actually very similar, or at least reminded me today of what it looked like when Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy were kind of going back and forth in 2024. Was Caleb Banks still large? Yes, Caleb Banks was still large today. I don't think that's going to change. I didn't see him taking a lot of reps today, if he took any of full speed. So that one might be something that takes some time in order to just get, Caleb Banks up to the point where they want him to take full practices. Because, remember, we're talking about a guy who has had to recover from an injury for most of the offseason. It's going to take some time, but I'll keep an eye on that as we go forward. Did not see a ton from him today, but maybe as the pads come on, we'll see a little bit more. Carrot says, I think the competition truly was a waste of time and delayed the inevitable. Hard to say that Kyler is better than JJ, and the lack of reps and the lack of reps either quarterback has gotten may have hurt them. I really don't think so. I think that that's just a little over dramatic, because both quarterbacks have gotten a ton of work in. They got a ton of work in minicamp. They've gotten a ton of work these first couple days. They have hardly run the ball over these first few days. It's been a lot of passing for both quarterbacks, and it's a long summer. We have not even reached August yet. And you have how many weeks to get ready for a football game? We saw Carson Wentz show up here last year at the end of the offseason. How about Joe Flacco, who went to Cincinnati and just won a game, or Baker Mayfield, who did that, a couple of years ago with the Los Angeles Rams? Like, these guys, if they've been around, can learn things fairly quickly. And I think it would be over dramatic to say that they've harmed Kyler if he's going to be the starter in July. Like, now, if you told me that they were still going on with this into the joint practices, I'd say, okay, that's way too far. Hunter says, don't care about what's fair, but just gives the reps mostly to Murray, then why paint it as a competition? Well, just because, so a competition does not have to be one quarterback getting exactly 50% of the reps of the first team and another quarterback getting exactly 50%. A competition could be where one quarterback, and when I wrote the article about it with Sage Rosenfels and Brad Johnson, Sage described to me a competition where he was getting half as many reps as QB3, and he eventually won it. I think the way you do it here, or the way it looks like through 2 days, and this could change tomorrow, but through 2 days, is McCarthy, you're going to have a chance, and you're going to have an opportunity to get first team reps. We're not closing you out of that. We're not closing you out of this possibility, but you're going to have to earn that with your performance. And you're also, and Kyler would have to really struggle and be frustrating as well to even this out. So now that we know, here we go, that, sorry, that's really funny that people on social media would think something that they didn't even see. But when it just comes to, in terms of McCarthy, he'll get reps and he's going to be out there. And if they feel like McCarthy is outperforming Murray, then he will earn more of them. If this is the way it's going to be going forward, then he can earn more of them by his actual performance. And that Kyler Murray could lose them with his performance. So it puts pressure on Murray to continue to every single day raise the bar every day and improve and learn and be coachable and be a leader in the huddle and all those different sort of things. But it also puts pressure on McCarthy to push as hard as he possibly can to stay in this discussion for as long as he possibly can. So I don't think that it has to be like each runner starts at the goal line and runs 100 yards to the other goal line for it to be a competition. I always thought that this was Kyler Murray starting 40 yards ahead based on his career, and that's how it's being treated a little bit here at the early part of training camp. Could change tomorrow. Could be a whole different story tomorrow. That's why I don't want to overreact and say, it's over, folks. Say goodnight, JJ McCarthy. Welcome to the Cleveland Browns, my friend. No, that's not right, because it's a long summer. It's going to be at least, I think, 2 weeks of hard practices here coming up once they put the pads on, and things can change. Somebody can get hurt. Somebody can, if you have one guy get banged up and misses practices or something, it could change. So no, we're not declaring it today because Murray got more first team reps. And again, if tomorrow McCarthy gets twice as many as Kyler, then we're going to say, okay, we're back to even, back to the starting point, back to zero. If it continues to go this way, then the bar is much higher for McCarthy, which we always thought. So it's a little bit quicker than I thought it was going to be, but I also think that it was what I thought it was going to be eventually. Hunter says, good to see some positive plays going deep for Kyler. That's been a bit of a narrative that I've been curious about. Yeah. So with Kyler, the deep ball is a curious thing on its own, because when you look historically at a lot of different quarterbacks' deep balls, when they have, say, Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, for example, as their wide receivers, or say Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, then suddenly Case Keenum turns into a great deep ball passer. And when he does not have those guys, he's not. And I think that in the Kyler's case, that's been the trend. When he had DeAndre Hopkins, he was a good down the field thrower. But when he did not, then he wasn't. And a lot of it is chemistry, but a lot of it is, can you actually, get separation and your scheme and all those things. And then the guy has to make the throws into an area. But that's what a lot of times with deep balls, it's throwing into an area. Now, that doesn't mean I think that on tape they were great, or that I think they've been great so far. I think he's had a couple really good ones, and 2 of them today were like, ooh, yeah, that's the stuff. But then there was one that went flying over Jefferson's head. There's another one that maybe TJ Hawkinson catches out of bounds. So the middle part of the field has not been great so far for Kyler. That's what we want to see more of. But the touch on the ball, this guy knows how to throw a football down the field with touch on it. And we've seen that time and time again. Deplorable Neanderthal. At what point does KOC weigh their performances equally? Right now, Kyler is less experienced in the offense, may have the veteran nods. I mean, I don't know. When it comes to the veteran versus not, this is the 3rd year for JJ McCarthy. I think they should be both treated as pro quarterbacks who are being evaluated based on what they've done in the league and how they're performing out on the field. I think we're sort of past the point of, well, JJ McCarthy's so much younger and he's still learning and everything. And it's like, okay, well, I think that for the long term, he can develop and he can improve and everything else. But for 2026 Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell has to make the right decision to win football games for this team, for all the veteran players, for the Brian O'Neills that signed contract extensions, for himself as a coach who hasn't had a playoff win. So you can't treat it with this, well, we're still trying to develop McCarthy slowly. Like, wait, they were ready last year to throw McCarthy right into the toughest position in pro sports with no performance whatsoever before because of his injury. They wouldn't, I don't think that now they would suddenly be going, well, veteran, he's a veteran, so he's going to be farther ahead or something. Like, McCarthy's on year 3 of learning this offense. So I think if you're doing it, it's because the plan has been for Kyler Murray to be the starting quarterback unless JJ McCarthy changes that or Kyler Murray changes that. And that's what it looks like as of this moment. Trade McCarthy for Vita Vea's funny Norse Force. Mama says we didn't know how good we had it with Kirk's passing. Nothing is worse than watching quarterbacks sail passes all game. It's true. It's true that I think we always said, like, Kirk Cousins throws a really nice ball. He's accurate. But where Kyler is going to shape your vision of him, I think, is when he actually takes off. And we've treated that like it's some sort of bad thing when talking about Kyler. And yeah, he does it too often, or he does it maybe a little prematurely at times. But the first time somebody comes free runner on a blitz and he ends up with 20 yards, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's right. And I really do think that Kirk and Kyler Murray are similar in terms of even what they've looked like in practice, the accuracy, the touch on the football, anticipation. Kirk was very good with that stuff in practice and completed a lot of passes, and we've seen that from Kyler. But what he's going to have to do is cut down on some of the negatives that have happened over the first couple of days. Then that's where Kyler has to get better. But normally we wouldn't be analyzing it that closely. If they had just said Kyler Murray is QB1 and JJ McCarthy's not in a competition, we would have looked at a day like today like, yeah, kind of typical, like some big plays, some, not so great plays as they get going. This is still the more of learning part of the offense, and then you lock in a little bit later. This is usually not the part where we would be hardcore evaluating. That's kind of second week. We get into night practices, second week after the preseason game, then definitely the joint practices. But since there's a quarterback competition, there's so much attention. It's like a bad throw, a miscommunication. Right? Like that's just how it goes. And I am the problem. I am the one typing them all into a grid after doing the play-by-play where I write down the zone where they threw it, if it was a routine pass, who caught it, how many approximate yards to my eye. Like, I'm the one doing that, but I'm also trying to be realistic about if you're Kevin O'Connell, you're going in after the practice and saying, all right, let's go through what happened on one of those plays, and then we'll discuss it. Steven, the takeaway is we should be following the 2027 draft. Steve, this is what I mean. Like, what? Like, let's, I know you guys like to get ahead of yourselves, but pie charts about who's the next quarterback and 2027 draft prospects. It's like, this is day 2 of camp, folks. Let's wait and see how Kyler and JJ play this thing out. And if it does turn out that Kyler gets the vast majority going forward, gets named the quarterback, then, as Vikings Wild Wolves, you said that, there's only those handful of quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl for teams that didn't draft them. But let's not declare that they haven't won the Super Bowl yet. Let's not declare that this didn't work yet. I mean, it's day 2 of practice. Maybe let's watch 2 games and then we can decide if they need to draft somebody in 2027. But I mean, thus far, I haven't seen anything from Kyler Murray that would make me go, oh man, this is just not going to work. Some of the passes that have worked out really well have, I think that they look like the type of passes that Kevin O'Connell wants in his offense. And if you can do that more consistently through the training camp where you're learning this for the first time, then it could be a pretty darn good offense. Mike the Viking, how do you think things will look between the pro JJ and pro Kyler fans during practices open to the public? Like the scene in Anchorman where a brick kills someone with a trident. That's what it's going to look like. No, that's not what it's going to look like. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I mean, why does everything have to be turned into some sort of war, right? Like, does that really have to happen? Sometimes you just start to wonder about people, and if you've been like brainwashed to be too online where you have to just plant flags and fight people all the time. I mean, there is a lot of nuance that goes into these things, and there's a lot of different scenarios that could play out with these things. And we'll just continue to cover what happens on a day-to-day basis and then go from there. I mean, I think that anybody who's walking into a practice saying, I'm only going to cheer for JJ, like, why are you there? Why are you going? Really? Like, I thought that people were fans of the Minnesota Vikings, but sometimes you think like, with the way people act online, is that really true? Or have you just decided you're going to be a fan of this one player and that's it? Because that seems really odd. Let's see. I am Bick. Just think it's too early to give up on McCarthy completely. I totally agree. I don't think that anyone believes that, Carrot, how many of us were ready for the attention that goes along with the starting quarterback? None. How many of us could play in the NFL? None. How many of us went to Michigan, IMG Academy, were in the spotlight, were drafted top 10 by an NFL team? Come on. I mean, was Drake May 20? What was he? Was he 23 this year? He went to the Super Bowl. Come on. Like, we can't just, I'm of two minds. I mean, number one is I think he could be good in the long term. I really do. I think the talent is there to eventually be a good starting quarterback. And I think this year, if this is how it's done, where he gets a lot of reps and he gets a lot of development time, but they go with Murray, that's the plan that I thought made the most sense all along. And I still think that makes the most sense for both quarterbacks. Murray to get his chance to run this offense with a real team as a guy with super talent, and then JJ McCarthy a chance to really sit back and develop and focus on getting better at football. I still think that that's the best. But at the same time, we can't just go on forever saying, oh, well, I couldn't be the quarterback of the Vikings at 23. I was just a youngster. Come on, that's how this works, right? Lots of quarterbacks have come into the league at young ages and had success. Not every single one, but that happens routinely. In fact, the first three quarterbacks drafted in the same draft as McCarthy went to the divisional round, NFC Championship, and Super Bowl. So we can't, and, Bo Nix was a little older, but also went to the AFC Championship. So, I mean, you can't just do that all day long. Like, you have to also have a standard for this if you're Kevin O'Connell and if you're the Minnesota Vikings to say, if you don't reach this level, and if you perform like this, and we don't see it from you in training camp, that there's clear and conclusive evidence that you're taking another huge step forward and we're seeing similar mistakes, then you're not going to have a real chance to win a quarterback competition. So, I do think that we could see a shift in the reps, that declaring it over on day 2 is also kind of probably not necessary. And it might go back a little bit more when it comes to McCarthy in the coming days when the pads come on and so forth. But if it doesn't, then this is exactly how we kind of expected it to go. And I'm not going to say that he didn't get a fair shake, because the fair shake was quarterback 1 all last season, and it didn't result in anything that was good enough to be competitive with other teams in the NFL. So Mike McCarthy refusing to go deep is still having the same timing issues, tells me the competition is over. Yeah, I mean, it's not over till Kevin O'Connell declares that it's over, since he is said that he is going to make a declaration, that he's going to come out and do it. But to your point, if JJ McCarthy approaches these practices like he has the last 2 days, which has been pretty safe, and he's had some nice throws. I mean, I've had him down for, what did I have? 3 yesterday, 1 today. So 4 positive throws. Then that usually means either like downfield and very accurate and timely, or into a tight window, or great touch. He only had 1 today because it was a lot of conservative throwing from him. I think that if he does end up playing that way throughout this camp, then yeah, you're right. Like, Kyler's going to end up winning the job, because Kyler is doing what Kevin O'Connell wants him to do, and that is to push the ball down the field and create explosive plays. So I think over the coming days, we're going to have to see JJ McCarthy take some more risks down the field, throw the ball on time down the field. Skippy says he's throwing to Nesbitt and Bartholomew and we want him to unleash it downfield. Yeah, well, you know what, dude? Dylan Bell and Miles Price and Dante Fleming all made good catches in this practice. So these guys can get downfield. These guys can make catches. You could take shots. And I'm not even saying bombs. It just hasn't even been intermediate passing a whole heck of a lot. So is he going to kind of shift the mentality as he gets a little more comfortable, as the pads come on? Or is it going to look like he's just trying to get completions out there and get rid of the ball quickly and so forth, to stay on time and maybe going through the progressions too quickly to try to make sure he's getting completions and not taking sacks and so forth. That part has got to be pretty hard from a mental perspective, to just go out and play free and play the way that you want to when you're feeling it already. That, I mean, I'm sure he took notice that Kyler Murray got more of the reps today. So that is, that can be hard. Purple Kool-Aid says the FanDuel question of the day was never a competition. However, quarterbacks are a shoo-in for a comeback player of the year if he stays healthy. Right. If we saw Joe Flacco win it when a guy died on the field and then came back to life, then, quarterbacks are going to get the most attention. Bill, he's 23, younger, the same age. There's 2 of the first round picks this year. Why give up on him? Develop the dude and let him flourish for the next 10 years. That's exactly what they are doing. I think if they handle it the way they did today, the rest of training camp, which would be to continue to have him take first team reps, just not a ton of them, and take all the second team reps and get a fairly even number of passes, at least for the first part of camp. If that's how it goes and Murray is still named the starter, then that means that McCarthy would have gotten a ton of development time throughout the early part of this training camp, which he so desperately needed to have. And then he can continue to focus on that as he goes forward, and we'll see where it goes. Because I will say, it's very possible that they might end up trading someone who doesn't win the competition. But think about how, if Murray wins the job, it doesn't mean it's over. I mean, how many times have we seen guys win a quarterback competition and then 3 weeks into the season, they're hurt and somebody else is next man up? There's a lot of teams that have played backup quarterbacks by the 3rd or 4th week of the season for the entire year. I mean, this is what happened with Case Keenum. He won a quarterback competition with Taylor Heineke, and by the 2nd week of the year, he's the starting quarterback for basically the rest of the season in 2017. So giving up, when people just say like, oh, he's not getting all the first team reps or the majority, they're giving up on him. Why are you giving up on it? No one is. No one is. And I think it's better for his career long-term, but only if he makes it that. Only if he makes the absolute most out of what he is being given here. Because if you get beaten down, if you get frustrated, if you lose your confidence and those sorts of things, that's going to be very hard to recover from. So I'll be watching very closely for that if these rep counts continue to go the way they did today, which again, we're going to do a show tomorrow. So I don't know, could change by tomorrow. That's why we do it every day, folks. If we did it every week, way too much to talk about. Thank you, Car Ramrod. Appreciate that. And glad to see once again the huge audience here tonight. Thank you so much. Trying to get, where are we at for subscribers? Did we get over 16,000 yet? Trying to get over the 16,000 mark. So hit that little subscribe button if you enjoy the show. And even if you don't enjoy the show, that would still be nice of you. We're already talking about Joe Burrow, guys. Bill, yeah, I did see with Good Morning Football this morning, what I thought is this is just such a absolutely horrific statistic to bring up. Like he won 6, you have to phrase it a certain way. Well, he won 6 out of the 10 games he played. Did he? Because he left the Giants game with an injury and Max Brosmer led the game-winning drive. The last game was against Clayton Tune and he didn't make it the entire way. He did have a good game against the Dallas Cowboys. That was the only game I thought he actually drove their success. Washington threw for like 160 yards. Pretty good game against Detroit. I mean, like, are we really talking about this for win-loss record when the stats across the board, if you look at adjusted net yards per attempt over the first 10 starts of a career or passer rating for the first 10 starts of a career, you're talking about EJ Manuel and Christian Ponder here. So, yeah, I mean, is he Brian Flores, who was great? I mean, not really, right? It's just such, when he asked that question, and I have a lot of respect for Kyle Brandt. I think he does a great job, and I enjoy Good Morning Football and everything. But when you frame it that way, well, he won 6 out of his 10 starts, and now you're giving up on him. It's like, come on, bro. we all saw what happened in the games. So when you play that way, you don't get benefit of the doubt going forward. But then here's the thing, like the bar of Kyler Murray is pretty high as a former first overall draft pick and of somebody who, has been excellent at times during their career. Then yeah, like the bar is pretty high. But if you're going to lead this team to an 11-win season, you should be at least on par with Kyler Murray as we go forward. Because I remember talking about this with Cam Bynum, who turned out to be better than I thought he was going to be. But when they drafted Lewis Seen, it was like, all right, well, I mean, if he's good, he should be able to beat out Cam Bynum, right? And he was not good, and he did not beat out Cam Bynum. And then Bynum turned out to be really good. But, the point just being that if McCarthy's ready to take this next big step to where he can win 60% of his games, and you really think he can win 60% of his games going forward, then he should be able to perform at the same level or better than Kyler Murray throughout this quarterback competition, right? I would think that that's the case. And even then, if you're going to tell me that you can have a 58% completion percentage and one of the worst passer ratings in the league year after year after year and win 60% of your games, do you really think that? You don't really think. I know you don't really think that. So it's such a disingenuous framing of it, of why would Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings be questioned for bringing in a veteran quarterback who has won games before for a bad team and give him a good team and see if that works better than someone who performed at that level? And, Bill, we don't need to compare him to Ponder because it's just apples and oranges. It's just, and here we go. Pro Kyler bias. There it is. I was waiting. It took a while. Yeah. The bias, who has the bias is apparently the Vikings, who gave him all the first team reps today. They're biased. Everyone is. We should do a night where we talk about that word and what it means. But anyway, so the point with, Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy is all of you should have probably mentally prepared yourself when he was signed for the idea that McCarthy might not be the starting quarterback this year. And you can make all the twisted stat arguments you want, all the excuses, all the age, whatever else. But I think you would have to agree that don't you want the franchise to win games? I would think so. And doesn't Kevin O'Connell want to win games? I would think so. So, I mean, yeah, like this is just nonsense. Bill, this is just nonsense. Like talking about high-fiving teammates. Who cares? Who cares, dude? I do not. What age are these people? Are the people you're talking about who love the high fives and stuff, are they 12? I mean, they need throws. They need Kyler Murray to throw the football to Justin Jefferson and to operate the offense like a professional quarterback and win games. I don't care if he high fives nobody. I don't care if he sits quietly and reads a book between plays. He needs to throw the football. And so far, we've seen quite a few of his strong throws during training camp. And we've also seen times where he's still learning this offense, or that he could just be erratic because he's Kyler Murray and Kyler Murray's erratic. But when you're trying to spin it like that, oh yeah, they should, you know what they should really do? They should give Max Brosmer the job, because nobody is a better teammate, and I mean this, than Max Brosmer. During the reps, Brosmer knows the offense so well that he's actually doing the rep behind the practice. This is how hard this guy works. He is behind the practice watching, and he will do the rep. So he should be a starting quarterback. Come on. We can't do it that way. That's absurd. It has to be the better of the two quarterbacks. Joker, seems like Metellus and Ward will have roles. Maybe Thomas will take free safety from Jackson, but Thomas is probably more of a strong safety. Yeah, I mean, I don't know with Thomas. I actually don't know which one he profiles better as, because he was more of a strong safety in college, but I see really good instincts from him, like breaking on the ball, catching the football, and that would maybe suggest that he could play free safety pretty well. Now, he doesn't have great speed. A lot of, sorry, I was just laughing. Sometimes you guys catch me by surprise with something funny in the comment section. But he have the long speed to be a free safety? But then again, I don't know that Cam Bynum had the best speed. He had great instincts and he had great intelligence. But I think it's a good group of a lot of players that do something well. And the fact that, you have Someone like Theo Jackson, who's been very good in practices and has had good games before, he's the veteran. He deserves to start out in this position, but it's on Thomas to really show that he can get there and be a part of this. Steven, wonder how Bartholomew followed up his good day one. Not much involved today. Wasn't involved much in the offense, but Wes Phillips seemed very high on him when he was talking about him. And that was why I asked, was just kind of like what they saw. And really it's about the guy can catch the ball. He is a pretty fluid route runner and just has like very strong, sure hands. Maybe there's a little Ty Conklin, like a longer Ty Conklin there for Gavin Bartholomew, but he's someone I'm very interested in during the preseason. A Mr. Mankato candidate, no doubt. I think Zamaya Vaughn, though, is probably still qualified for that. Mike says, you think O'Connell would ever trust McCarthy, caused him his ego death last year? Yeah, well, he also caused them to like have one of the worst offenses in the league. So, I will always say, like, there's no reason to say McCarthy's career is over, but you have to evaluate it this year through the lens of this season. So it's two really different conversations where it's like, okay, you want JJ McCarthy to improve and develop and have a future in the NFL, whether it's here or somewhere else. You want him to be ready as heck when Kyler Murray gets banged up, like all those sorts of things. And if you're a JJ McCarthy fan who bought his jersey and bought into him and loved everything about him, I don't think you should view this as it's over and the Vikings wronged him and podcasters wronged him and he loved high fives. How could you say this about him? No, look, it's a performance league. It's not a development league. It's never going to be a development league. This is not the UFL. It's not college. You are not spending time as coaches. You don't have enough with players to sit there and develop every single detail and everything else. It takes time. That's what it takes. It takes time. And McCarthy has not had that time. So this here is time for McCarthy. Healthy and getting still a lot of passes in practice. And I just have a lot of trouble seeing he's a victim of the team. He's a victim of bad circumstances with his injury in 2024 and with his injuries last year. Those are not his fault and they set him back. But you have to go about these decisions as just only being about who's going to win you more games this year. I mean, Leif Erikson is a hilarious name, by the way. I love that. Itching and foaming at the mouth to take a victory lap. Dude, Sam Darnold won the Super Bowl after I was the only person in the United States of America who said maybe you should keep Sam Darnold. I'm good. Like I've had all the victory lapping I need. Now I'm just charting passes and telling you what's happening. So we won't need that. We won't need that. And if you want, I've spent all this time analyzing every piece inside and out of Kyler Murray's game. And I think that there's a conclusion there that this can work. And what we've seen over the first couple days is a lot of very good throws from Kyler that have been accurate. And we've also seen some erratic stuff from Kyler, which is kind of what I expect. And if it gets better and smoother as the summer goes along and looks like Sam Darnold, then I'm going to be saying, yeah, this looks like it can work. If it does not get smoother and it does not get better and it's still erratic, then I'm going to say I'm pretty anxious about this and I don't know how it's going to go. And it might not work out. No victory lap on day 2 of training camp. Trust me. I usually wait till the guy that I was in favor of being the quarterback wins the Super Bowl with another team. Then I take the victory lap. Anyway, Purple Kool-Aid, the O-line with a healthy Darrisaw isn't even comparable. Oh my gosh, I know. When we talk about the peak potential of this offensive line, which I think is maybe like somewhere between 8th and 12th. I don't know if with a center who's never done it before that top 3 is possible. But the growth of Donovan Jackson, and I'll just tell you, I had a really good conversation with Will Fries. I'm going to write a story about it and I'll grab some quotes maybe for tomorrow's show from what Will said to me just for a written story. But he's a lot healthier as well this year is what he told me. So he said last year was very hard to get through 17 games and this offseason was so much better for him. So you have 2 guys on the line that are way healthier than they were before. I am BIC says, hopefully they're both phenomenal and we have an embarrassment of riches. Well, there you go. There's the right attitude. No, really, it's 2 days and it's not enough to draw a lock dead conclusion about these quarterbacks, but the best situation that you could ask for would be that Kyler Murray wins the job and he just takes over and is very, very good and takes you to the playoffs and gives you a chance to win, while also developing JJ McCarthy to his best possible situation. Because if Murray gets hurt and you need McCarthy, you need him to be ready to continue to win him the game or win you games, and you need him to develop. And then maybe at the end of the year, like there's very real scenarios where you could have Murray play 12 games, look great, get hurt, and then McCarthy takes you the rest of the way. You love how he looks and he's your guy again. But that's up to McCarthy. He's got to lock in and be ready. These first 2 practices have been fine. I don't think there's anything really wrong with them. They've just been safe and they've just been kind of conservative and routine. It's been a lot of those routine passes, not a lot that have taken much risk. And you'd like to see him in the coming days start to lock in and push the ball down the field a little more and play on time a little bit more. I mean, it's the first 2 days of practice, so there's time. Love people who weren't at practice saying how they looked. I do think it's hilarious, though. There is a guy on Twitter who tweets old clips of training camp that fans had from years ago and says that they're happening today, and then everyone buys it. So funny. Deebo Samuel to the 49ers. I did see that, and interesting that he's going back there. I have a lot of skepticism about the 49ers. They're one of the teams this year that I am kind of selling on because Ricky Pearsall is banged up. Mike Evans is hurt a lot over the last couple of years. And last year especially was really banged up and is very old. And now you have another kind of older, brittle guy going out there and they don't have Jawan Jennings. So it's like, it's pretty hard to see them thriving a lot. And George Kittle is coming off an ACL. Trent Williams is 38. I mean, that team is just freaking ancient. And a running back who had a crazy large amount of touches last year. It just, everything is pointing toward it's going to be a tough time for San Francisco. And they're going to have to revamp on the fly without drafting very well in recent years. Jordan, the so-called competition is for the ego of McCarthy. Nothing more or less. He's not starting. All they need to know is that he can put up more than 45 yards in a game through the air. Well, yeah, I mean, there's that. But I don't know if it's, you don't do things like that for the ego of someone like JJ McCarthy. I think if you're trying to look at it through the Kyler Murray lens, what you would be saying is that you didn't want Kyler Murray to walk in here as just, hey, the world belongs to me. Like that's how it was in Arizona. What you would be looking for is much more, hey man, you're going to get pushed. You're going to get competition. We're going to try to do everything we can to get the absolute best preparation, best effort, all that sort of stuff out of you. You could be doing it that way for Kyler Murray. And then for JJ McCarthy, the message is we're not giving up on you. Like we brought Kyler here, but we're not giving up on you. And we want to develop you and we want to give you a chance. And if Kyler doesn't work out, which we have no idea if he will, then you are still here and you could still be our starting quarterback. I mean, I think that that's rational. I probably would have just said, look, I mean, Kyler's going to be the starter and it's your job to develop for JJ McCarthy rather than saying competition and so forth. But I don't have any issue with the way that Kevin O'Connell has gone about it. And he has told the quarterbacks exactly how it was going to go. He's been transparent with the quarterbacks. He sat down with them. He explained how it's going to go. And if you're McCarthy, there's no victim just because your team went out and got somebody else. Every other position in pro sports would work this way. Quarterback is really the only position in pro sports that we ever are like, no, yeah, you need to like wait forever, which, hey, look, some guys do develop. And I think that's very possible for JJ McCarthy, but you can't do it when you're expecting to win games and you have a good team and the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. You can't do it when that's your approach to this season, you can't just say, hey, we're going to wait forever and give him 3 years and see how it works. And sometimes we look back a little more fondly than we actually should at quarterbacks in the past, that where it was like that. It's like, well, you know, that team waited forever. I mean, there's not even that many instances that guys were developed forever in the past and ended up working out. So like this league works quickly, and that's how it's got to be. So it's on JJ McCarthy to use everything he's got here to develop and be ready in case Kyler Murray does slip and does struggle as we go throughout, because this is really just the second day. It's really just the second day. Metaphorically, it's the first section of, it's like there's the non-padded, which doesn't matter as much, then the start of pads, which is always the defense dominating. Then the offense starts to catch up with the second section of pads. We do a night practice, we do a preseason game, and on to the rest of the summer. Jordan says, what happens when Kyler takes 80% of the snaps again? Just to be clear, it wasn't that Kyler took twice as many total snaps. He took more, but it was way more first team reps, just to be clear. And what happens if that happens? Well, then I think we're going to come in here tomorrow and say, all right, this is heavily pointing toward it's Kyler Murray's job. It's very strongly looking like it is, if that happens tomorrow. Now, if tomorrow JJ McCarthy takes 12 first team reps and Kyler Murray takes 6, then we're having a totally different conversation. Then we're saying, oh, wow, okay, this is really on. It's crazy how things can change in 24 hours in Vikings land. And that's why, again, I want to do this every night so we can really take the temperature every single night. Vikings news today. Brosmer, do you think he'll make the roster, end up on the practice squad? I would guess practice squad. Look, Kevin O'Connell has already had multiple quarterbacks who have turned into offensive coordinators, literally. Like David Blau and Sean Mannion. And I think Max Brosmer is that kind of guy too, that he can be like a backup quarterback in the league for a while, and then more likely than not is going to go into coaching or something like that. I think that there's something there with him. It's not fair to look at the way he played against the Seattle Seahawks and say, oh, this guy can't play at all. But he needs a lot more work himself. And it's going to be very hard for him to get, that much work with the way the scenario is. So you have to be the best teammate you possibly can be. You have to be very good in practice, and you have to learn as much as you can, because your career might end up being like a David Blau or a Sean Mannion. Jack says, after JJ pushed the ball downfield a ton last season, KOC stressed that he needs to stack completions and take what the defense give him. Now we are criticizing him for being too safe. Can't win. Jack, we're all smarter than this, right? I know you are. I've never met you, but I know you're better than that. What I described was that JJ McCarthy through these first 2 practices has been very safe with the football. Did I say, how dare him? Did I say he needs to be released? Let him go? No. I said this is day 2 and he hasn't pushed the ball down the field enough. And that doesn't mean like 50 yards down the field. It just means throwing to the receivers in the area where they're running the routes and not just checking down to tight ends and running backs kind of repeatedly, which is what he's done these first 2 days. That's all it means, man. It's amazing how people will twist themselves into mental pretzels to try to be like, oh, he's a victim. It's unfair. You're being unfair. O'Connell's unfair. The life's unfair. No, this is fair. Every other position. If you had an offensive tackle who was a first-round pick, missed an entire season. Offensive tackle is pretty important, right? Missed an entire season, then came back, played half the year, and rated by PFF 68th out of 77 tackles. Would you guys be saying, look, it's unfair to bring in another tackle as competition or a potential starter? No, you wouldn't. You'd say somebody got to play left tackle. But with a quarterback, I think there's more emotional investment. And I really think that, no, Joel, the Kyler's lowlights didn't include the fumbles because they were bad snaps. So I don't know what you want me. You want me to say, I don't get why would, I mean, I mentioned that, but I'm not going to put it under the lowlights when we're talking about how he passed the ball today. What we're talking about, though, is it's a concern that he and Brandel need to get on the same page, but it's more of a center issue than a Murray issue. But anyway, so sorry for zigging and zagging there, but I mean, it's just when you talk about these players, it's like, do you want your team to succeed, or did you just, I don't really fully understand why it seems like it's this affront to talk about any sort of critique for a guy who played as poorly as McCarthy did last year. I mean, he needs time, he needs development, he needs to improve, and he's getting plenty of opportunity to do that. It's just that, unsurprisingly, the reps are starting to lean toward the guy who's more likely to be the starting quarterback. So I don't know what else to do there. Forrest says KOC's ego blindsided us. Organizations fail quarterbacks, yet jam a square peg into a round hole with my system or else. Again, we're doing the victim thing. We're just doing the victim thing. It's a million excuses for a team where every other quarterback who played for this team, except for Jaron Hall, was fine or good, or at least in Nick Mullins' case, put up a lot of numbers. And Sam Darnold was absolutely outstanding, and Kirk Cousins played some of his best football with, and then all of a sudden, now he's doing everything wrong. He's doing everything wrong now. Finley says, say everything goes the way everybody thinks. Will Kyler at starting quarterback at the beginning of the season, but he doesn't do very well. How many losses would it take before he puts in JJ? I mean, I don't know if JJ is still on the team. I mean, I guess, if he gets traded, then he won't be. Then they would just stick with Kyler Murray. But I don't think they should trade him, but it's always possible. In terms of if he stays around, I would say if you start like 2-5, once you get to the point where it would take almost a miracle to turn it around in order to make the playoffs, that's when you would shift to JJ McCarthy. But at that point, the pressure is going to be a lot if that were to happen. So, yeah, I think that's probably it. Purple Kool-Aid, KOC knows that Kyler's going to need the reps to learn. Can't keep the competition going at the detriment of the season. Yeah, and I don't after today, don't feel like it's going to go on super long into the offseason. Harlem Kid says, what's your sense on Harrison Smith? There was a quote, somebody pointed out this to me. I didn't really take it that way, but where Flores said Harrison is absent rather than saying like he's retired. But of course, I mean, he hasn't announced anything that he's retired, so he's not back. But I think that Harrison Smith is probably going to wait around and see. Wait and see. That's my official guess, is he's going to wait and see till he sees how things are playing out. Sorry, some of your comments are going too quickly for me to catch up on. So I apologize if they flew by. At least they were on the screen, but I'm trying to stay ahead, but I get caught up sometimes on the ranting. Vikings Wild Wolves should have picked up Baker from the Rams when he was making the minimum. Yeah, well, hindsight on that one, or just maybe kept Sam Darnold. I don't know. Jim, at what point would a team like the Vikings identify an a UFA that might make the roster? I assume you mean undrafted free agent. Is it normally early that they would say to the rest of the coaches, he'll probably make the team? No, it takes all summer. I mean, for an undrafted free agent to make the team, it takes all summer long because they usually don't get almost any opportunities right away. Like today, there was probably 5 reps for the third team. So they don't get a lot of opportunities in these practices. They need to show it in the preseason games, and they usually need to show it in 3 preseason games if you're going to be an undrafted free agent. And they usually have to do it on special teams or make catches, put up big numbers, and then also practice well and have the coaches like them. Like, it's a hard needle to thread for undrafted free agents. And for this year, there's not a lot that I see that have much of a chance to make the team. Because last year they were so short on players, they kind of had to, but then they ended up liking some of the guys. I mean, Tyler Batty, Chaz Chambliss, Bo Richter, like they like those guys. Miles Price. I don't know if this year's class is going to have as much of a path to the field as the ones did before. Like Dylan Bell, that's a guy you can put on your practice squad, even if you really, really like him. Nick says McCarthy's got to throw short before you can throw long. I didn't know that was a rule. especially when you've been in the offense for the 3 years. Caleb, if KOC gets fired, he will win the Super Bowl or be successful somewhere else. Okay, I was like, what? Day 2, we're firing people. We're drafting quarterbacks in 2027. Why not? It's football. Can't stand people who think that they would be better off without him. He is a great coach. I have strongly been in favor of the idea of Kevin O'Connell as the long-term coach, because I think that things over a long period of time, if they're done well and someone can show improvement with Kevin O'Connell, which I think that he has in certain areas that maybe we don't give credit for, like how he manages the game from the sideline. 2022, I thought he was a little bit in over his head at times with trying to manage the game, call the game, communicate with the players, like all those sorts of things. I thought that was tough on him when he first took over as a head coach, that he got better at throughout the years. But I also think that, O'Connell, with his veteran starting quarterbacks, has won a lot of football games, and there aren't too many other coaches, if you add this up, who have had 8 quarterbacks who have winning records. I mean, there's just not a lot of them who have had to play that many quarterbacks, and it's going to be 9 if it's Kyler Murray. I mean, who else has had to do that? Dan Campbell has played 1 quarterback his entire time with the Detroit Lions, and it's been Jared Goff, who's really good. So, yeah, there's pressure on Kevin O'Connell. There should be. That's the reality. The NFL would not be the NFL if they just went, meh, who cares if we win in the playoffs? Oh no, lots of pressure. But it's a better outcome for the Vikings if O'Connell continues to be the head coach. And I do think you can look back and say, should he have done this different? Should he have done that different? But here's my thing. With the not adjusting the offense, someone's got to show me, because I think that that's just a convenient, bogus narrative. He comes out the first game of the season, they pull a comeback win, it's great. The second game of the season, ill-prepared would be a way to put it, and I think we got that hint about the way that the week played out against Atlanta, but also some circumstances played into it. He ends up getting hurt and then misses 5 weeks. When he comes back, they're a run-first offense. They were playing Nick Vannett against the Detroit Lions. They were running much more than passing then. And then against Baltimore, they had to pass because they were down in the game due to interceptions and a special teams faux pas. But then you look at after that game, Chicago, they're more run first. Green Bay, they're run first. Then Aaron Jones makes the dumb the offense down comment, which, you could also call simplifying. When was it that they gave him this crazy complex offense that nobody could possibly manage? I mean, I don't know what games when that happened. So I think there was a lot more evidence that they had to pare it down a lot at the end of the year, but the entire second half of the year where they got back and it got to 500 and above 500, they were running a pretty simplified offense. And in the 5 weeks that he was out, they were running the real offense with Carson Wentz. So I'm not sure about that I buy that. Also, he had a good camp last year and looked like he was doing well with the offense. Again, like, would you change it and adjust it if that was the case? Like, I don't think so. So anyway, it's just, there's a lot of stuff with these things that I understand and some stuff I don't. Like, I understand the emotional investment. I understand that people so badly want someone to succeed that it really hurts if they're not. And if the team goes in another direction, I think about this with the NBA all the time where, maybe you love Karl Anthony Towns and he gets traded to somebody else. And it's like, that's tough to deal with. But I also think that when someone like me is evaluating it, I have to do just the objective. What's the black and white? What's the facts? What are the reps looking like? What were the guys' pasts? What do those look like? What's the argument for each of them? Like, could we see it? What's the best path for each of them to succeed? That's how I have to do it, because there isn't an emotional investment. Jim says, if Kyler passing is the same as JJ McCarthy, the Vikings are still better off. Kyler is harder to catch. Oh yeah. The running game. Yeah. The running game, he is, I think since 2020, he's like 3rd in EPA in running, and the only other 2 are Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So his running has been a huge asset, but he's probably going to throw the ball better than McCarthy did last year. When I'm talking about the short passing with McCarthy, by the way, I just want to see him throw in rhythm a little more down the field more often, because that's what O'Connell is going to be looking for. He wants the ball into the intermediate areas. He wants the ball over the middle to wide receivers. He wants it on time. He wants it into certain windows. So when you do have like the checkdowns, there is a power of completions for sure. But I mean, that's a balance, right? I mean, just throwing underneath all the time is not really what you're looking for. So I'd like to see him start to open it up. That was really the point, is as we go forward into this, especially if Kyler's getting more first team reps, like, hey man, like just, I don't know, throw your hands up and see what you can do. Like, take risks and figure out where it works and where it doesn't. Like quarterbacks talk about this all the time of, hey, I took a risk in practice to see if that would work kind of thing. Well, if he's going to develop himself, that might be something he wants to focus on. Yeah, I don't think AP Carl and they're going to trade off each other every other. So East Minnesota, Mark, the GM part of this equation too. Yeah, I don't really know where Nolan Teasley fits in. I mean, he's going to be a part of the communication, but I don't think that Nolan Teasley is going to try to sway things one way or the other with Kevin O'Connell, but rather support, whatever decision he's going to make. I don't think you're going to be like, oh, well, this guy could be cheaper into the future, so you should go with that guy. Maybe he's thinking it in the back of his mind, but what he's really going to want to do is be a first-year general manager who gets playoff win right away, and that decision to sign Jamal Adams looms large. That's what you're looking for. Mike says the mark of a great coach is winning consecutive playoff games, something the Vikings haven't done since 1987. It's complicated, more complicated than just having a great coach. I mean, I think Mike Zimmer was a very good coach, and I think Denny Green was a great coach. But what has been really the commonality? We all know what it's been. When it talks about winning consecutive playoff games, going to the playoff consecutive years, we all know what it's been. It's been the inconsistency at the quarterback position. And they may have found it with Sam Darnold and let it go, unfortunately. I will never know what that would have looked like last year with Sam Darnold, but based on the fact that they had that defense, thinking probably 11 or 12 wins for the Vikings last year if it was Sam Darnold under center. Who will ever know? But I can think of 3 more games that they could have won with halfway decent quarterback play. But maybe he was perfect for Kevin O'Connell. They let him go, and that's the circle that they continue to be on. And now you're looking at Kyler Murray. And I think that, the reason a lot of people also push back against Kyler Murray and want to support the idea of JJ McCarthy is also just because the idea of JJ McCarthy is still a long-term franchise quarterback. Even if it's not franchise quarterback, how about just long-term? How about having the same guy who, you could build around over years, as opposed to, all right, well, it's just another one of those things. Just another one of those one-time type of 1 year. Maybe the guy plays well and then it doesn't, who knows where it goes from there. You get stuck in the middle. Like, I get it. I get the consternation. It's day 2 of practice though. So we don't really need to do like a meta deep therapeutic session for your brain, right? It's day 2. Day 2. Yeah, Kelly, I mean, it's just the worst argument probably ever when people say, oh, well, Kyler's team let him go. Sam Darnold's team let him go and he won the Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield's team let him go. Actually, several teams. It's a bad argument. It's not even worth saying. Don't tell other people that, because it's just so silly. The Arizona Cardinals needed to move on and reset their franchise, and Murray was not going to sign an extension with them. So they did the right thing for once and they moved on, and the Vikings got this opportunity. But we all know that by now. I mean, you're in July still saying that? That seems like a March comment that we would have debunked pretty quickly, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the Cardinals are an awesome franchise who always make right decisions, right? Come on. We could do better. I know a lot of you are new. We've got the crew who's here all the time, who is a pretty sharp group, but luckily, based on the size of the audience, we've got some new folks here. Son of Beavers, the only time I've seen anyone cheer at camp for a quarterback battle was when Sean Mannion's family, when he had to fight the job against Kellen Mond. Yeah, I don't think that the crowd's going to be fighting each other. I'd be surprised if we see that. We already have that they should tank. Okay. They should not. No, they should not tank. Jared, it's a tiny sample size, but seeming obvious McCarthy is coming to camp with a less mistakes mindset. I could understand why he would lean that way, but not sure it's a great approach. Right. Yeah, I think that that is probably true. And also, if one of the main critiques was about getting through your reads on time, you could see where, maybe getting through them a little too fast to like, oh, no, it's not quite there. Let's just make sure we get a completion. Because that was something that, yeah, I think that's right. I think that that's right. I also think that when you're talking about small samples of stuff in a practice, I've seen Kirk practices where it felt like he was throwing underneath all the time. And, the next day he pushed it down the field. Like some of these plays were just regular play actions where you're supposed to dump it down and that kind of thing. We don't know the plays that they're calling and stuff like that. It's just, I think that, what McCarthy probably will start to do as the camp goes along is find the balance. That it's likely a little difficult right now with you have another quarterback taking a lot of the reps and you're trying not to make mistakes and you're trying to do what you've been coached to do and be coachable and make a good first impression this year in camp and everything. So you don't want 3 interceptions on the first day because you were chucking it down the field. I could see where that mentality would come into play. Let me take a quick pause and remind you of the FanDuel question of the day, which is Kyler Murray's plus 600 for comeback player of the year. If things continue to go this way, where he's getting the majority of the reps, will you feel like it was not fair to JJ McCarthy? Will you feel like they handled it the right way? Like it was maybe made too much of in public or was this just the right way to handle it? How will you feel about that? That is the FanDuel question of the day. Also got a couple sponsors to remind you of, which the first being my friends at Brooklyn Bedding, which you get the mattress. It comes in a box and then it expands. It's really fun to watch it do that. But it's also been really fun to sleep on this mattress because my sleep quality has increased so much. And I'm glad I bought this mattress. Cost effective, but also long-term durability. It was built here in the USA. This isn't some sort of mass-produced disposable mattress. Like this thing is built to last, and that type of craftsmanship was very attractive. And so we switched to the Aurora Luxe mattress, which has just been outstanding. So much more energy, just better sleep, so much more comfortable. I didn't used to want to lay in bed and watch TV before bed, but now I'm like, I can spend a lot of time here. So Brooklyn Bedding, if I didn't like it, which I do, but if I didn't, they give you a 120 night comfort trial. So you could always swap it or return the mattress hassle-free. So go to brooklynbedding.com, use the promo code PURPLE at checkout for 30% off site-wide during their back-to-school sale. That's brooklynbedding.com, and that promo code is PURPLE. Also want to tell you about ZipRecruiter. When you think about what you want from a candidate is the same thing you want from somebody who's serving you at a restaurant or somebody who's working on your house, which is someone to just go the extra mile for you to show how much they really care about their job. And so it might not seem like much, but when someone makes that extra step, it leaves an impression. And if you're hiring, you want great candidates who also take the extra step to tell you why they are really interested in your job. At ZipRecruiter, as a way to stand out from the others, you can have your candidates do that, tell you why they want the job. So you want to try this out at ZipRecruiter.com for free. ZipRecruiter.com/audio is the place to go. They have matching technology that finds the candidates for you, and candidates can tell you in their own words why they are interested. So check it out at, again, that is ZipRecruiter.com/audio. 4 out of every 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter and meet great candidates who will go the extra mile for you. Again, that is ZipRecruiter.com/audio. Okay, deep breath. Oh, thank you so much, Autumn Voyage, for the super chat. Really appreciate you. Need a little sip of Gatorade before we go forward here. I wondered if it might get intense tonight. I'm glad that other folks have thrown out questions about other stuff, comments about other stuff than just the quarterback position, but you certainly can continue down that road. But here's the thing. And, I see, people have different comments about, Kyler Murray and so forth. And I guess I just think, like, now that we're in training camp, the arguments with Kyler Murray from before, he did this in Arizona, he was this, they got rid of him, he's the Minnesota Vikings quarterback as of right now. As of today, he looked like the Minnesota Vikings starting quarterback. So throughout the rest of training camp, we should see how it goes as the Minnesota Vikings quarterback. I mean, you know how I've said this before, and this is standard. This is standard Purple Insider process, okay? When JJ McCarthy was drafted, there were certain critiques and things like that I had brought up throughout the draft process about JJ McCarthy, that when he was drafted by the Vikings, I said this. I said, it doesn't matter. Whatever I said about him in the draft, or whether I wanted them to pick him or wanted them to pick Bo Nix or whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. He's the Vikings quarterback, and he's going to put a purple helmet on, and we're going to evaluate him every day as a Viking, and it does not matter what he did at Michigan, because I've never found it to matter what someone did in college. Lewis Cine was great in college. I've seen other people who, Stephon Diggs was not great in college. Turned out to be a great pro. It does not matter. And that's kind of the way I look at it now with Kyler Murray, where we're going to evaluate him every day of practice, and we're going to decide by the end, after we go through every single day of tracking the throws and talking about how he performed and listen to everybody talk about what he's done and everything else, and then kind of decide what we think. And then the games are going to start, and we're going to evaluate those based on what he is as a Minnesota Viking quarterback. Case Keenum was a pretty bad Houston Texans quarterback and then did really well. I mean, like, you really don't know with these things. And so much is impacted by your receivers, your offense, the schedule that you play, all sorts of stuff like that. So I have looked at it like that with both of these quarterbacks, really. And with McCarthy, it's the performance as a Minnesota Viking has not been up to a standard that you can consistently win with unless you get Superman defense or unless you play the Packers, who are starting Clayton Tune, right? Like, that's just not good enough. And Kyler so far has looked like he can make a lot of the throws, but he really has to be more sharp than he's been over the last 2 days. And that is going to play out in coming weeks. I think that's a fair place to live. And also with JJ McCarthy, because of the things that have been out of his control that have gone wrong, I have never said give up on him. I've never said he will have no career or that they should just trade him for nothing. Like, I've never said that. So that's where I continue to stand after 2 days. I did think that there would be maybe a little bit more opportunity for McCarthy, so that could change tomorrow. And we'll see how it goes. But as of right now, with the reps shifting toward Murray, looks a little bit more, it's going his direction. Yeah, Casey, I just don't agree with any of that. That he's better under center. McCarthy is better in his career, is better at absolutely nothing than Kyler Murray. Nothing. Not throwing deep, not throwing short, not throwing to the middle, not throwing underneath, not scrambling, not running an offense, nothing. There's nothing that he's done in his career that's better than Kyler Murray. It's kind of the point, right? So I don't know where some of that stuff comes from. Let's see. This is Kim. How many true position battles do you believe are happening right now? Now there's a good question. Thank you, Kim. Actually, probably not that many. I think that the defensive line has been a lot of shifting, and I'm going to be better. I'm going to be better. There's been so much trying to track every single throw that I have not taken total note, but I've seen a lot of people mixing in with the defensive line. A lot of different guys. Seeing, Jalen Redmond, of course, is there. Levi Drake Rodriguez. And Elijah Williams was a little bit more down on the depth chart, but we might see him mix in at some point. Ty Ingram Dawkins has been out there a lot. So there's absolutely competition for how many reps guys are going to get on the interior of the defensive line. Dominique Orange has mixed in a little bit with the first team. I think that's a true competition. And I definitely think that the safety position could turn true competition. I don't think it is right now, but I think that it could be at some point turn into a true competition if Jacoby Thomas can really make his case. If Jacoby Thomas starts playing really well and starts really shining and impressing them with his knowledge, it's such an IQ position at safety. So if he really is locking in and making plays, then there's a chance that could become a competition. Aside from that, though, it's a lot of backup stuff. Backup corner, Zamiah Vaughn, Charles Demings. We've seen a lot of those guys. And if you're another corner, like we haven't seen a ton of Dwight McGlothern with, he's been in with the second team, but I don't know if he's really in that discussion still anymore for him. But maybe, if he played pretty well. So there's a lot of competition like that. The backup offensive line, there might be some competition. It kind of looks like Walter Rouse has gotten the Willie Beavers treatment. Like he's down with the third team, not playing on the second team, and he's been moved into guard. So you wonder if that one is going to continue to go somewhere. Wide receiver, man, the depth wide receivers today. Like I know that we've spent most of the time with JJ McCarthy people being unhappy that he got less reps today, but the depth wide receivers looked really good. Really, really good today. A lot of catches down the field. Great catch from Kyler Murray by Dante Fleming. Great catch by Dylan Bell. That was a throw that wasn't really perfect. Great catch by Miles Price. Kind of had to dive for it. Like they've got some talent in the depth of this wide receiver group that I'm very interested in. And Ty Felton had one play where I really thought that he could have fought a little bit harder to come back to the ball or like kind of curled his route a little bit more toward the quarterback. But then he had a really nice catch later in practice. So I think that there's competition at a lot of spots for the backups, but maybe not a lot of spots for starters. But injuries happen, so that's what matters. Vikings Wild Wolves says Vikings top defense and the Lions top offense both went 9-8. NFC North was really only a 2-game difference. Yeah, I mean, it really was last year a crazy division where one play, one game could have, changed things around. And I suspect it's going to be the same way this year. Like the Bears have their flaws. Their defensive line is not strong. Their pass rush isn't strong. The Detroit Lions, I think, are the most talented team in the NFC North and also have the biggest holes. And you do have to have major questions about their offensive line and their coaching. I mean, last year, Dan Campbell took over the play calling, didn't really change much. They bring in Drew Petzing. I think he is a good offensive mind, but, is he going to be a perfect fit with Jared Goff? Can they block for him? They had kind of the Sonic and Knuckles thing going on, but now they have Sonic and Isaiah Pacheco, who hasn't been good in a few years. Like they have some weaknesses there that could be really detrimental. And then on defense, the way they've wanted to play, they've got a lot of injuries every year. It doesn't look like Kirby Joseph is going to be back anytime soon. Brian Branch had a pretty serious injury. I mean, jeez, right? Like, I mean, they have always been banged up, and it's the way they play. And I don't think they've been very creative on defense either with Aaron Glenn or with Kelvin Shepard. So everyone and the Packers, they just have fallen into mediocrity. And with Micah Parsons coming back from the ACL injury, like how deep will their defense be? There's a ton of questions here that do leave the door open. And the fact that everybody plays the NFC South, the fact that you get the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets on your schedule, it opens the door for a Vikings team with some flaws. And whoever is starting a quarterback is going to have flaws and will have up and down games. There's no doubt about it if Kyler Murray's their quarterback. But can you even those things out with a really strong team and good coaching? Sean, how long of a leash will KOC give Kyler? Kind of depends, right? Like if they really struggle out of the gate, then you might not have any other choice, but you should also not make the judgment too soon, right? Like if you're 3-3, you're not just going to say, all right, well, he hasn't turned into a superstar yet. Really wasn't for Sam Darnold until second half of the season when things truly started to click for Sam Darnold. I think he had some great moments early in the season, the 97-yard touchdown and the first half of the Packers game and so forth, but it didn't seem like he played complete Vikings quarterback till the second half of the season. So if they're hanging around and they're in good position through the first half of the year, or even hanging around 500, they would stick with Kyler. I think it would have to be catastrophic in order to make a change there if they had to. Bryson, Caleb Banks has my attention more than the quarterback competition. We all love the new shiny thing. Caleb Banks very much has my attention. I don't watch a lot of the D-line until they put pads on because, well, they can't hit the quarterback, but they also can't really hit each other. They don't want these guys, and they're going like they accelerate first step, but then they kind of like slow off, right? Because the offensive linemen don't have a fair shot at blocking these guys if they don't have any pads on. So when the pads come on, I can't wait to see what Caleb Banks looks like. And I'm going to try to, and I'll have to like create a little process for myself of look at the D-line first and then see where the ball goes when he's out there so I can get a look at him, because there's only 2 eyeballs stuck inside of my skull. So it's hard to watch everything, but I would like to see a lot of Caleb Banks as the pads come on and get a feel for how far along he's going to be at the outset and then see where he grows to, because he hasn't taken a ton of reps so far. But, you know, we'll see where it goes from here. I would guess that it's going to be more and more and more that come along. The Bronso, the Vikings were in position to beat the Ravens, and the second Bears game, special teams blew it. Second Packer game was very close, but he muffed the punt. Yeah, I mean, we also saw the quarterback play in those games. Those 3 games, if you have the 20th best quarterback in the league, you win all 3. And you win the division handily, and you host the playoff game. That's the reality. So that's what they're looking for. Can you get, and O'Connell said it, not me, a baseline of quarterback play? And if they could get that, then games like that, they would win. You want to blame the special teams? Sure, but it shouldn't have mattered. It shouldn't have mattered for the special teams to blow a play, which, by the way, wasn't, I mean, it did set up Caleb Williams, but the game was not like over. They had a chance where they would have had a couple of completions potential to kick a long field goal anyway, and kickers can kick from 70 yards away. So just like, yeah, that play was costly, but I mean, if you saw the quarterback play in those games, right? That's the whole point, is how many games were right there to be won. The Atlanta game should be won. Atlanta did not play very well in that game. That should be won. There's at least 4 or 5 games that could have been won. Leonard, thank you so much for the super chat. Sorry if I missed that earlier. Dennis, you must like to hear yourself talk. It is what generally happens, Dennis, during a live stream. Usually, I mean, I could just look at you guys, but I don't think I'm one of those live streamers that you could just look at and enjoy. BM, I've seen things, oh, okay. I don't know what you're talking about there. Some of you guys just being funny. Joker, it's totally fine that Murray is a quiet quarterback. KOC will do enough of the talking for both. John wins the worst possible argument of the day award. If Kyler wins his next 25 games, he'll have a win percentage as good as JJ's. Come on. Actually, you know, we need a scroll. We used to have a scroll for like the most ridiculous comment of the day, but I think you just won it there. That's good though. Are we, I mean, thank you. I'm glad that you're appreciating that I have a good mattress now. It really was a problem. Josh, all Vikings fans should be hoping JJ gets good. It gets old when fans constantly complain that so-and-so sucks. Most of the windbags complaining can't even sprint 100 yards. Well, none of you, and I promise none of you, can play NFL football. So I don't know who you think you are, but none of you can play NFL football. I've stood next to these guys for the last 10 years. I promise you, none of you are playing with them. So it doesn't really matter. But everyone is allowed to have an opinion on football. That's what's great, and that's what helps this show do what it does. That's why we do live chats. And the chat is usually really good at being rational and so forth. And I figured there would be a lot of people frustrated by like not being, at least to this point, a competition that was a 50-50 rep count, that it's being pushed toward Kyler Murray by day 2. But to your point, I do think that the way that this thing is viewed by a lot of people whether it's Murray or McCarthy or the competition or whatever, is shaped by the past, right? Like when I had Will Parkinson on from Turn on the Jets, covers the New York Jets, and he was like, well, Geno could be like their best quarterback in years. It's like, wow. Geno Smith could be their best quarterback in years. The Vikings so often being a bridesmaid, so often having good but flawed quarterbacks who get exposed in the end, does kind of sound like Kyler Murray. And that's where I totally understand where a lot of you are coming from. When it's the less experienced quarterback, the guy who's younger, it's like hope springs eternal. And when you talk about, well, they're already kind of turning the reps toward Kyler, at least for today, then it already feels like, oh, the hope is being a bit dashed. And last year during some of those games that, they may have won some games at the end of the year, but the games where the quarterback play was abominable, it was like the hope is being dashed that they had found their guy. And I think that that's something that kind of is still sort of being mourned by a lot of the fan base, was that idea that they had finally found the guy. And then when Murray arrives, it's like, oh, they're kind of saying that that's not the case. Now, it's not a 0% chance, but it's not looking like it's going to happen today or anytime soon if this competition continues to play out the way that it looks so far over the first couple days. I think that's that frustrating place in the middle where the Vikings have been for a long time is what Kyler Murray sort of represents. And I guess what I would just maybe suggest, if it keeps going this way, if things change, then I will change. It's a crazy concept, but that's how I've always done it. If I think a player's not that good and then they become good, I'm like, oh, good, they're good. I don't know. I don't control these things. They do. I just tell you what's happening and what I think of it. But if it continues to go this way, I guess what I would say is at some point, doesn't the baggage get too heavy to carry? Like, can't Vikings fans ever take the baggage and just put it down and just see what happens? It feels like the answer is no, but it's there all the time. All the time. Okay. Skull Shadow, the evidence is the evidence. Bottom of the league performance doesn't reverse itself historically. Even an average quarterback performance by McCarthy would be historically unprecedented. No, you're right about that. You're right about that. And that I've done the research on it. And you can too, if you want. If you go to Pro Football Reference and you look up all the quarterbacks that were not top 5 and say between the 5th overall pick and the 64th overall pick. So first and second round quarterbacks that were not top 5 picks, because those quarterbacks always go to the worst teams. So their performance often is pretty tough to start their careers. But if you look at all the QBs that perform like McCarthy did last year, the historical odds are not in his favor. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't change that. It just means that you have to understand that as a franchise when you're making decisions about how to win this year. And it kind of seems that's what they've done. David says, is Darrisaw ever going to be healthy again? At least today, he said that he's feeling the best he's felt in a really long time. And that I think it was more of his body language and how he said it that struck me a lot more. Like, it really stood out to me how effusive he was about it. Like, I am feeling so much freaking better, guys. Like, he was down last year. It takes a mental toll when guys are battling through injuries. And it was just nice to see. Christian Darrisaw is a very, very pleasant person and very well liked within the team and the organization. I think he got the Ed Block Courage Award last year from his teammates that vote for somebody who's kind of gone through a lot and persevered. Tells you, I think his teammates care a lot about him. And it's hard when you can't feel like you're yourself. And it's probably hard to explain to anyone too, of, hey, structurally it looks fine, but it doesn't feel fine. Anybody who's ever had a back injury and you go and they give you an MRI and x-rays and they're like, I don't know, don't see anything. And you're like, I don't know, I can't stand up. Like, I mean, so, you can't see everything and know everything about how a player's feeling. And I'm sure that it was really frustrating for him last year. So to see a joy in him about playing football and really feeling good and being out there, I think a very, very positive sign. So, Joker, is there a real competition for QB2? As of right now, I would say probably not, but it really depends. I mean, if you go through this thing and you just don't really love the way JJ McCarthy looked, and someone else is like, hey, we'll trade for him, and you trust Carson Wentz. But my issue with that is, what about like week 3? If Kyler was the starter and got hurt week 3, are you asking Carson Wentz to take you the rest of the way with a team like this? I don't know. I think QB2 still should be JJ McCarthy, and he should be ready to step in if Kyler Murray gets hurt, if that ends up being the case. There is a long way to go, my friends. There's a long way to go. Josh, you're saying Kyler is more experienced. He is who he is at this point. No upside left. See, that I don't really understand, because we've seen a lot of quarterbacks, including Sam Darnold, in their mid to late 20s, get with the right team and perform better than they ever have before. This isn't basketball. Like, the quarterback is so impacted by the team that I would be willing to find out if a guy who was the 12th best quarterback 2 years ago could be the 8th best quarterback this year with a much better franchise. So, I mean, when you talk about upside, his upside for his career has been a top 10 quarterback. That's been his upside. The last couple of years, it's been more of 12th, but it's been with a very bad team that was coached by a first-time head coach. And also, the data that I included in my article about Kyler Murray, they were 31st in draft value from 2019 to 2025. 31st. So they didn't put a lot around him. He didn't have a lot of success there, but he had a hell of a lot more success than anybody else who played. So I think when you talk about upside can be dictated by the team. Here's a way to put it. If Kyler Murray played for the Philadelphia Eagles and not Jalen Hurts since 2020, do you think he would have won any games? How would he have done? Good is my guess. Probably won a lot is my guess, because I don't think that Jalen Hurts is a more talented quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's more talented than Kyler Murray. They both have some of the same shortcomings. They're not tall. Hurts is not consistent in his accuracy. I mean, there's just evidence all over NFL history about how much circumstances can impact quarterbacks. I'd be willing to find out if there's another step there. And even if he has the same performance as he's had in Arizona with this football team, with their defense, he's never had a top 10 defense. Like, you could win a lot of games. I don't know. That's funny. Steven says just the second day, but some in the Vikings media world have declared Murray the starter based on the amount of reps on day 2. No, I don't. I mean, maybe they did. I don't know. Sorry, I need a drink of Gatorade here. I didn't read what everybody else said. It was stark. It was obvious. It was probably double the first team reps. So I wouldn't be surprised if some people said, oh, it kind of looks like it's trending that way. And that's what I'm saying. It's kind of looking like it's trending that way, but tomorrow is a different day and it could be different. So, yeah, we might have to work on, normally I try to read all the comments, but we're going to have to work on probably more scrolling from me, huh? Guess I'm going to have to do that. That's just, Big Higgs says, how's the running game looking with our backfield? I mean, without padded practices, it's hard to really tell because, I mean, you don't even bump into them. But I think that Jordan Mason looked very good last year, and I think he looks very good this year. He just fundamentally has a great feel for that outside zone stuff. He has great movement for a guy his size and power, and Claiborne looks really quick. I just don't know after what Wes Phillips said today if Claiborne is going to be far enough along with the offense by the time they get to the end of camp where they're going to want to play him a lot. He said it was a really difficult early part of the spring and that he's been working on it and he's locked in and all those things, but it comes really quickly when the pads come on. Like the plays develop very, very quickly. So there's learning it and there's being able to talk about it in a meeting and then actually go out to the field and do it correctly. If Claiborne can do that, then he can play. That's what it really comes down to, is that he can play if he gets that opportunity, because he's earned it by showing that he can master the offense. And we know this. It's really important to them that the running backs lock in all of the details. That's why Aaron Jones is still here. So I'm color me intrigued by Claiborne, but also a little cautious on that. And I mean, Jones looks fine. He's Aaron Jones. He looks all right. But I think Mason looks like he took it very seriously this offseason, what type of year he could potentially have. Will says, which quarterback would you choose to put in the game right now based solely on the connections with receivers and how much they know the playbook? There would be, I mean, if you're giving me who I would put in the game today, if they were going to start a game today, of course it would be Kyler Murray. I mean, of course. There wouldn't really be any conversation. Their backgrounds are much, much different in terms of performance, but and even through the first 2 days, like Kyler has made a lot of the throws that Kyler is here to make. He has a lot to learn though, and it's also July 28th. So you can tell the parts where he has to learn, and you can also tell the parts of why he could be very, very good with this team. And he's made some really good throws to Justin Jefferson. He's made some good throws down the field. And then he's also had a number of miscues as well. I had him down for 3 negative plays today. It might have been maybe some I'm not 100% sure what the coaches would say. Could have been 4. So he had a lot of really good plays down the field and accurate throws and touch throws. And then he had some where it was an inaccurate throw over the middle to Jordan Addison that he should hit, I don't know, 100 times out of 100. Maybe the ball got tipped. It didn't look like it. And, you know, there was one where Blake Cashman knocks the ball down and, you know, like there's some things that are going to have to be improved for Kyler Murray, but it's looked like a starting quarterback. I mean, I just think about if we had judged Kirk's seasons this way, what did he look like on the first 2 days? It's just a lot, but the quarterback competition is going to be exhausting. Yeah, well, we'll see how much longer it goes on. I mean, I don't think that it's exhausting as much as, you know, there's just some folks who have really committed to JJ McCarthy and wanting to back him regardless of what happens. And those folks know that they get a lot of attention on the internet if they jump into comment sections. And so we can certainly see that here tonight. That happens a lot. But, you know, I don't think that, you know, we really need to relive everything from Arizona or even last year with JJ McCarthy during training camp. That's why we're here. That's why it's great, is because we could talk about what's actually happening out on the field and not go back through the same sort of tired discussions for both of those guys. Autumn Voyage says, fair to say that a lot of the gimmies of JJ today are him taking to heart the stack completion side of things too much and afraid to make mistakes in fear of losing the job. It could be. I don't want to speak for JJ McCarthy and what's in his head. It might have just been what he was seeing out there. It might have just been, hey, this is the looks that I'm getting and I'm making the right play. That could be, or it could be what you're saying of trying to get through those reads as fast as possible, trying to, as you said, stack completions, have a higher completion percentage than Kyler, and, you know, kind of look at it that way. And maybe there is some fear of, hey, if I throw an interception, then, you know, I'm going to lose some reps or something like that. I don't know. It could just be the first 2 days and you're getting acclimated to certain things and other receivers that maybe you haven't practiced a whole lot with before and seeing some things for the first time since minicamp, and you're going to get going. There's never been a time in my career ever where the first 2 days would be scrutinized like this. So I don't remember what Sam Darnold's first 2 days really looked like. I mean, I'm sure I talked about it, but I doubt that I made a chart and, you know, right, tried to get into the psychology of the quarterback. I mean, we're talking about like 15 passes today. So you probably both need some more time. Eric, worried about the center position. Is Garrett Bradbury available? Love Brandel, but I'm nervous. Yeah, I feel the same way about Brandel. I really like the story of Blake Brandel as someone who's fought kind of tooth and nail to be the center. But when you see the errant snap, you get a little concerned. And the fact that he just has not done this as a full-time center before, in a pinch he had to do it, but over 17 games where you really can get, exposed as a full-time player, there should be some concern there. I mean, the rest of the offensive line is good. And I also didn't think that there were other guys that were better choices than Blake Brandel for this team to be a center. Lloyd Cushenberry or whoever else. Maybe Tyler Biotish would have been a little better, but like how many guys were out there that and he was cut by Washington, so I don't know, right? Like how many guys who were free agents would you have said, oh yeah, this guy's definitely better than what you have in-house, and the communication's good. But it's the biggest question by far of the offensive line. No doubt about it. Will says, if the Vikings don't do well this year, do you think the media will be talking about the Vikings firing KOC? I mean, I think that any of the 32 NFL media markets would be talking about firing a coach if they struggle in any season, really, unless it's like Andy Reid last year, who's got, Super Bowls and stuff. That's always going to happen. But especially if you haven't won any playoff games, then it's really going to happen, and it should be expected. But I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea, even if it's a rocky season, to take a coach who's this age and has had success, at least in terms of over 500 records, has had a good overall record in the regular season, has had so much quarterback inconsistency. Like, I'd like to see him. And this is why I get it with the McCarthy people. I totally get it. I get it. I'm sympathetic. I really am. To the people who come into comment sections screaming that he was 6-4 last year. I feel you. I really do. I really have sympathy, because last year at this time, we were all talking about this. I know I was. Like, I love history, and I love the Vikings history, and I love the Vikings quarterback history because it's kind of ridiculous. And it's wild how many quarterbacks like Kyler Murray just show up here, and they usually have the same fate. And you just don't want to keep living in that circle. What you wanted to do was break that mold and have JJ McCarthy be better than Sam Darnold and be the super clutch captain and everything else, and just have it like off into the sunset. Even if he played like Justin Herbert, where it's frustrating at times and you lose some big games, you're like, well, there's always next year. If you've got a quarterback, there's always next year. If you have quarterback uncertainty, it feels like you're just floating off in the ocean, right? I get it. So there's that. But when it pertains to Kevin O'Connell, we have to factor that in when we evaluate. And we also have to factor in that he was playing a role in letting that quarterback, Sam Darnold, go. So he's not a victim here entirely. But we have to factor in that he hasn't had that quarterback. And every other head coach of the Vikings has ultimately fallen victim to not having that quarterback. Right? I mean, Brad Childress drafts Tavares Jackson. It doesn't work out. Brett plays great for 1 year, but then when it falls apart, it all comes down on him. Mike Zimmer had, Kirk Cousins for a long time here, but because they had paid Kirk so much, the pressure was up to win. He never really bought into Kirk, right? So, and then even since KOC's been here, it's been very volatile. And every offseason we go in, who's the quarterback? If that's where you're at, then you're probably not often talking about a team that's going to be consistently great. And that's what everyone is looking for. Leonard, don't think Harrison Smith will come back. Okay. I mean, he might not. Yeah, he might not. And if he doesn't, then what a career for Harrison Smith. Some guys just don't announce it at all. They just sort of go live their life and don't try to make a big deal out of it. Let's see. Sorry, it's funny of people insulting me and then someone saying like and subscribe. BM says UDFA is making the team routinely is an awful draft indicator. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. I mean, if you're drafting players in the 7th round that don't work out and UDFAs make it, I mean, it's not a big difference between a 7th rounder and a UDFA. But I think last year it was somewhat of an indicator of the fact that the Vikings haven't had a lot of picks. I will say, though, that UDFAs, if they can make the roster over draft picks, is a good indicator that like those are actually good players, because teams are always going to lean toward the draft picks. So if someone makes it as a UDFA, a lot of times they had to fight for it. And I think they found guys like who can play that are role players. Bo Richter has been a great special teams guy. It matters when the kickoff is back, right? And it matters when every punt seems to be a coffin corner because you start at the 40-yard line all the time. So it matters to have players like that. But you're right that if you have to fill out a lot of the roster all the time with UDFAs, it probably means you don't have a lot of young draft picks. I agree with that. Blind Shadow Vortex, hope that Hitman comes back. Just need one interception to be the third player in history with 40-20. Yep. And that would be helping his case for Hall of Fame. BM, you remember when Ivan Pace was a thing? Yeah, it's really fallen off. It's really kind of disappeared. He's just become more of a special teamer. And the fact that they were going to get Jamal Adams kind of says there's just a lack of confidence in Ivan Pace. I think that it kind of got solved a little bit with the size issue, and then just lost the trust of Brian Flores, and that's where it's taken him. When am I going to make Purple Insider t-shirts? I guess I'm going to have to work on that. I'm going to have to work on a merch store. I've never been really into the merch. Do you guys want merch? Leonard, I don't think O'Connell's ceiling is a Lombardi. And the funny thing about like that is, can he really win the playoffs? Can he really win a Super Bowl? It's like Nick Sirianni is kind of talked about all the time. It's just some dope in Philadelphia. It's like been to 2 Super Bowls and won one. I mean, I don't know. A lot of it comes down to, do you find the quarterback? How good is your roster? And then do you believe that your coach is good enough to get you there? And I don't know yet. I mean, with O'Connell, you have to win in the playoffs before we could say definitively this guy can get it done. But also we should remember Sam Darnold when we talk about Kevin O'Connell, that everyone said Sam Darnold just couldn't possibly get it done. No way. Sees ghosts, can't do it. And then he did. So it's always like, you're not clutch until you are kind of thing. You have to prove it. O'Connell has to prove it. They have to win in the playoffs at some point. But I also think that when you evaluate a lot of things, how the organization operates, to talk about like firing O'Connell now is sort of almost a disrespect for how hard that job is and how bad most people are at it. How many of the coaches who get hired get fired right after, and how stable the thing is, where look at the Giants, man. Look at the Giants last year. Just total calamity. People not showing up for meetings and internal strife and frustration and coaches getting fired and quitting or what, all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, that Brian Daboll couldn't command a franchise. So that's a heck of a place to start. And then you have to have things go right for you with the roster and the matchups and everything, right? So I think being able to command a franchise is a pretty impressive skill for Kevin O'Connell. Being able to have an offense that works for Justin Jefferson to the degree that it does when he has a veteran quarterback is pretty important. And where it goes from there is going to depend a lot on whether they find the guy at quarterback. And if they don't, it probably is going to go in the same way that a lot of other coaches have gone who couldn't find the quarterback. Will, say everything goes good on defense this year. Who do you see taking Smith's spot? It's for sure Josh Metellus. Like, Josh Metellus is the guy on the defense right now. He is for sure the leader of that secondary. And Byron Murphy is involved in that too, but Metellus is the guy who's been kind of training for this for years. It's really just where everyone's slotted around Metellus. It looks like Metellus is going to play as a strong safety in Harrison Smith's position. And then Jay Ward is kind of becoming Metellus, and which sounds like a Netflix series. And then Theo Jackson is going to be more of the deeper safety. So anyway, yeah, you're right, Joker. I should do a show where I say McCarthy looks like he's going to be the MVP, and to see what the chat says. Yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to move on from a lot of the comments, just knowing that they're unserious, and that's okay. That just means we've got a bigger audience than before. Maybe I kind of got used to the fact that we had like a small group when there would only be a handful of people watching the live stream over the summer that are really football nuts, that really know the game. And then we're getting a lot of more casual people because camp has started and there's a lot more attention. So, I need to be mindful of that as well. And maybe just scroll by some. Jared, another random thought, the number of reps that these players get overall, I think is way lower than what someone outside would think. They don't have really that much time. No, you're right. That it is a shockingly small number of plays. This is not two-a-days from back in the day. This is not like this long, drawn-out camp. These things go fast. I mean, there's only a handful of practices that go for a long time into the evening. A lot of them are an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's stretching and warm-ups and individual drills, and then you're throwing the ball. What did I have today? Like 17 and 13 passes. It's not a lot. It's not a huge sample size to really go off of on a given day, so that's why we kind of have to day by day see where it all goes. But it's a good point. Steven, is KOC the Marty Schottenheimer of today's NFL? Well, I don't know. I mean, Schottenheimer got into, I think he's going to have to do a lot to be considered a Marty Schottenheimer. They went into a lot of playoffs with great records. I mean, it's only been 2 times that they've been there and disappointed in the postseason. Schottenheimer got his heart ripped out by John Elway, which is unfortunate. And Ernest Biner, he was coaching for Ernest Biner, right? So there was unfortunate things that happened there. But, you could say there is something similar that he never really, he had Kozar. So when he did, they had a lot of success in Kansas City. Didn't really, he had he was the coach with Montana, but it was old Montana. It wasn't quite there, from where he had been years ago, had back injuries and stuff. So, but the similarity is a lot of different quarterbacks for Marty Schottenheimer. And then Phillip Rivers shouldn't have been fired after winning, 14 games that year. But yeah, there are coaches like that who've had a lot of success and could never get over the hump. But Marty Schottenheimer also coached forever. And KOC is on year 5 and is like 40 years old. So maybe give it more time. Will, you're asking a lot of good questions. Come back. Okay? We're going to do this every night after practices. Come back. These are good questions. And I know that your name is Will Reichert is king, but I'm still going to call you Will. Do you think KOC will have to simplify the offense to suit Kyler's play style, or will he try to change the way Kyler plays? I think that he will try to mold the offense to Kyler's feedback of what he's most comfortable with. And the reason I say that is because that's what he did with Sam Darnold, that he started off with, here's our base offense, and then they practiced all summer long, and then it was, all right, let's pare it down when we game plan to what really works for you. And the advantage of being a veteran is that those guys kind of know better what works for them than a younger quarterback. So Kyler can give him that type of feedback. I think that's how it's really going to work. I don't think that you have to change as much as you think for Kyler Murray. He's going to scramble on his own. There's not going to be a lot of designed run stuff for him. I do think that they'll try to get him to play some more bootleg action and rollouts than maybe he had done, with Cliff Kingsbury. He did a little bit more with Drew Petzing. I think they like that stuff. Some of the more play action under center, but he did that a lot in 2024. Not that much different than what Sam Darnold did in 2024. I think it was like 27% to 22% of the snaps. And the same with Kirk Cousins, was mostly in the shotgun. So I really don't believe it's going to be massive changes. It's just going to be on Kyler to fully understand where the options are once things start really happening. This is a fair point. Autumn Voyage says it's unfortunate JJ was drafted by a team in win now mode. If we were a rebuilding team, he'd have the grace like Bryce Young had, for instance. I know. And that's what I talk about all the time. Like, the most used words on this podcast are probably circumstances, because circumstances just have so much of an impact on what happens. And you're right that if he had been healthy for 2024, things could be different. If he went to a different franchise that was rebuilding, it could be different. The process was absolutely accelerated by the fact that they succeeded so much in 2024. If they had won 7 games and Sam Darnold was kind of bled in 2024 and last year played out, we'd be saying, go with JJ, man. But you can't really do that right now with a lot of talent on this team, and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and Darrisaw and O'Neal. You pay O'Neal that, like, what are you just going to sort of see what happens? Like, no. And so I think that's a fair point. Pop Punk Skull, how many practices does McCarthy have to beat Murray in for you to come to the right side? I don't know what the right side is supposed to be, but I mean, I don't know what the obsession with, why would that be considered like the right thing? I don't really get that. Like, it's kind of creepy, honestly. That would have to be a KOC question, I guess. I mean, I think what they would have to see is an accumulation over a long stretch of practices where McCarthy was decidedly better and Murray was struggling and McCarthy was doing really, really well, in order for them to start shifting the reps back. I mean, what side I'm on makes no difference at all. We're talking about the reps. We're talking about what the coaches did, what really happened, not the imagination land of the McCarthy fan. We're talking about what really happened today. So the question is not for me. The question is for O'Connell. How many practices would McCarthy? You have to start with one, by the way. Right now it's at 0, so you'd have to start with 1. But how many would he have to be better? It would have to be a string, for sure. It would have to be a longer stretch, 6-7 practices where he was decidedly the better quarterback for him to start getting more reps than Murray and then have a chance to really win it, I think. So anyway, I got some things to write here, so I might have to jump off without getting to all the questions, but you guys have had some really good ones today. Will says you were talking about talent level of the defense on one of your videos, and how much does that jump if they trade for Vita Vea? Oh, a lot. I mean, I think it's a talented defense overall, but there's a lot of question marks as well. If they were to trade for Vita Vea, I'd say, I don't know how many question marks there are left, because this guy's going to destroy everybody. Van Ginkel's a star. Cashman's really good. I think Turner can take a big step, but he would take a big step with Vita Vea in there. And these other players, Redmond, like, they've got a lot of good stuff, but I don't think that's something they're going to do right now. I think it's something that they'll think about as they see the season play out, because you would have to be really convinced that they were going to be good. Walter Rouse and Ivan Pace Jr. for Vita Vea. That's funny. You know, I've gotten those emails before. BM for the FanDuel question of the day. Who cares about fair? Well, yeah, I mean, fair is not, it's about winning. It's not about being fair, right? Really appreciate Autumn Voyage, the super chat. Thank you for that. I might have already thanked you. Julio, how is Jake Golday looking? I really like his, I talked to him about his approach yesterday. Really like his attitude toward learning the defense. He's been out there a lot with the second team, looks comfortable so far, and we'll just have to see where it goes from there. I haven't seen him taking any first team reps because they've got veterans that are in there, but he's a big dude. He moves extremely well, and it just comes across like he's a very smart player. Eric Wilson said he feels like he's got very high IQ. So yeah, I mean, I think that Golday, it's going to be a little bit of a slower process with him, but you see the movement, you see the size, and just from talking to him, it comes across very mature. So I like a lot of what I've seen so far to this point. Madden Zen or Mad Zen music. Sorry. Last year, JJ had plenty of games to solidify his spot. Now it's another hero's opportunity. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it goes in the NFL with pretty much any position, right? Like the Vikings couldn't wait around for Laquan Treadwell to be wide receiver 1. They just went with the guys who perform better. Dave, do I think it might be the case that he was told to work on his checkdowns? I mean, I don't know if you're ever told to work on your checkdowns. You're supposed to run the play the way it's supposed to be run, which is there's a first option that usually is Justin Jefferson or the wide receiver 1, whoever is playing the role of Justin Jefferson. That's where the ball is supposed to go. But if it can't go there because of the way the defense looks, then there is a second and a third option to throw it somewhere farther down the field, and then there's a check down. So it's sort of The old saying for quarterbacks is if you can count to 3, you can play for me. And my like 1, 2, 3 check down is usually how it works. I don't know that in the first days of camp, you would ever be told you have to work on your check downs. Like that's the easiest thing in the entire world to do. Throwing it into traffic on time with layering over a linebacker in front of a safety. Like that's really what you're looking for a lot of the throws. There was a really nice one down the seam to Bryson Nesbitt today. There was a nice one to Gavin Bartholomew yesterday. So I think that you're looking to execute the plays the way they're drawn up to the wide receivers first. And then you're getting to those checkdowns if you don't feel comfortable with the look. But no, I don't think that the way that you would start camp is, hey man, just check down a lot. I think it's just kind of how it's played out. And again, like Jared said, it's not a lot of reps. So if you do it a few times, then it's going to look like it's a lot. I was just saying that like to see him kind of loosen up in the next couple days and throw down the field. We are very early into this, my friends. Very early. The first preseason game is like 2.5 weeks away. Steven, you said last night about how things go in the Twin Cities typically play out in that season, seeing as how no quarterback has really stood out greatly. You have to wonder how the 26 season goes. Well, you know, you never know. I mean, it's 2 days into camp. I'm not going to try to, I couldn't predict it correctly last year after all the days of camp. You never know how it's going to go. So anyway, yeah. Well, you know, oh, there you go. See, this is why, like, we're still getting good comments from people, and so I'm trying to get to them. And there's a good one from Fire Sabers, or is it Fires Abers? Hard to know. How much have you seen of Big Citrus? Not a lot. I mean, he's mixed in a little bit with the first team, a lot with the second team, and I hate to keep saying when the pads come on, but that's when we really got to see it, right? Like, without the pads on, they're just sort of taking a step forward and stopping. And then the play plays out around them. And they make some contact with each other, but you can't have dudes drilling each other without pads on. But quickness, size, the way he moves for his size, he's an enormous human being. Yeah, we'll just see how that comes along. But I mean, I think he's going to get his chance to get plenty of opportunities in camp and maybe even to be a starter. Julio says, last comment is a prediction that the Vikings quarterback this year will have a better QBR than Jordan Love. Okay. Love has been a statistically very good quarterback, but if that happens, this team can be very, very good. Jim says, as fans, this is when we need to transition to a positive attitude about our team. Well, that hasn't so much been the case from everybody in the comment section, Jim, but I do think that if you are a person who really was on the McCarthy bandwagon, you're not very happy with what's happened here, you kind of have to decide, like, do you want to be the person that roots against your own team to be right about a quarterback or just roots for your own team? And the way that the world works now, I mean, I don't know, like fans get really segmented and people sort of root for their opinions more than they root for their teams. Sometimes it feels like. I don't think that that's true across the board, but I think that does happen. Joseph, do you think Jamal Adams has anything left? I think it's possible that he fits in at linebacker enough to give you something, give you some blitzing, give you some hard-nosed play. Do I think he could play every snap? No, probably not. But I was surprised to see how big he looks. I mean, he really looks like a linebacker. You could have fooled me. If you never told me he played safety, you're just like, that's a linebacker. You're like, oh yeah, it's a linebacker. So he looks huge. I don't know what he's listed at weight-wise, but whatever he was listed at as a rookie is not what he weighs now. Like, he's a big dude. He's got some quickness. You could still see that. So I think he could contribute, potentially. And they're giving him some good rep counts here to really get a good look at him. So they're going to know that by the time they get to the end. Shy Sun, every team has its flaws. Yeah, you're right. If you're talking about the NFC North, yeah. That's why the door is open for potentially for the Vikings, even with an unsure quarterback position, to have a chance to win the division. Fire Sabers says, I like Pace, but he's too one-dimensional. and ripe to get cut or play special teams. It seems like they like him for special teams, but you're right. The one-dimensional, he's a good blitzer, and he would sort of run into running backs on his way to the quarterback. But when they didn't have the body movers up front the same way, he seemed to really struggle, and they definitely attacked him in coverage. Yep. Yeah, he was. No, you're right. He was the Raiders' best linebacker last year. Oh, you're quoting Reddit. Okay, that's always fun, Joker. He was the Raiders' best linebacker last year. Insanely low bar, but true. He's not a starter. Yeah, I think that a rotational player is the right role for Jamal Adams. You can't ask him to play 50, 60 snaps for a game, a game. But he could do something. Fire Sabers, say what you will about JJ. It's dumb to give up on a quarterback after 10 snaps. Yeah, it's there's a difference between giving up and also realizing the position you're in. You have a lot of good players. You can win. Like, not starting him doesn't mean that his career is over. It just means that you're really trying to win with this group. And you're not going to risk necessarily, if it goes this way, you're not going to risk it playing out like it did last year. You're going to go with someone who has a better baseline of play for their career. Yeah, you're right. I have been covering the team long enough to have a good sense for the Viking fan mentality. Yeah, that's why I've been talking about. Like, I really do have a lot of understanding of why the people lash out of frustration when they hear that it's 2 days in and McCarthy's not getting the snaps. I would just say, hey, well, let's see what happens tomorrow, for one. But you also shouldn't be shocked if this is the way it goes. Joker wants Vita Vea now that Darrisaw is healthy. That's funny. That's funny. Well, I'm not against it. I was making the argument for it the other night. Anywho, okay, well, got more work to do. It's been a long day already in the sun. I still haven't gotten a burn yet. Not looking too bad, but you could tell I glisten here every night from all the sunscreen that I put on. But purpleinsider.football recap of some of the stuff that we've included here today, but also other things that I've talked to players about or were said at the podium and stuff like that. So look for those recaps. Sign up for that. If you enjoy the show, you want to find a way to support it, then that would be a good way, is purpleinsider.football. And sometimes you have to type in www.purple. I don't know why, but that's how it goes. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Guess what? Tomorrow, another live show. Almost 3 hours for this one, but we're going to do it again tomorrow, and we'll see what the rep counts are then and what everybody's got to say then. And then the pads will come on shortly after that, and off we go. So thanks, everybody, for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again soon. Football.